Today's America's Cup racing is brought to you by Spark.
Intrigue, drama, controversy. Wow!
One bad tack by the Americans.
Emirates Team New Zealand take the lead in both protests. Welcome to the Prada America's Cup World Series.
It's amazing to see how many Kiwis got out there to watch it. It seemed like the whole course was surrounded by boats.
The second start made my day. We did a very good move there.
There's passion and pride.
Jimmy Spittle's very aggressive in the starts and just shuts the race.
There's definitely a flag here, though.
So it's American magic. Get the win of the Battle of the Heavyweights on day one.
You like to come off the racetrack with wins, so that's why we're here.
Fury to fireworks.
It was a really tough day for the team. We were way off the pace in terms of being able to control the boat, so frustrating day.
Can you send us the software of how it was designed, and then we can work out what the problem is?
The action has only just begun. No mai, haere mai, hello and welcome to the second day of competition in the Prada America's Cup World Series from Auckland, New Zealand. Another stunning summer's day on the Waitemata Harbour is a chance for teams to execute what they learned from the opening day of racing yesterday into practice today. No one was giving away much, all of the teams bar INEOS admitting they made sailing errors and have work to do. INEOS were plagued from their first race with foil cantarm system problems, which saw them DNF in race 3, but they will race today. What that meant was they were the only team not to bag any points. American Magic produced 2 brilliant runs to take the maximum 2, while Emirates Team New Zealand and Rossa Prada Pirelli team managed 1 win apiece. First up on day 2 has Rossa against Patriot. The Americans overjoyed at being able to give family and friends a perfect start to the regatta yesterday. Rossa should have fixed their navigation system issues they had in the pre-start against the Kiwis. Following that, it's Te Reo Tai against Britannia. Then we do it all over again, just swapping who has port and who has starboard entry. Reflecting on day 1, our experts are 2 vastly experienced America's Cup helmsmen. Kenny Reid, president of North Sails, and Nathan Outteridge. You know, day 1, Kenny, it gave us a little bit of everything.
Well, thank you, Stephen. And having lots of time off from competition, the 4 teams certainly were finding their footing yesterday. Remember, almost all of the sailors haven't sailed a competitive regatta for over a year. Combine that with the complicated systems on these new yachts, which clearly still have a gremlin or 2, and you've pretty much written the definition of a day 1. And Nathan Outteridge, we're just starting to scratch the surface.
That's right, Kenny. We saw everything yesterday. Heartbreaking equipment failure with INEOS Team UK. A dominant performance by Emirates Team New Zealand in race 1, which really sent the message to the challengers. And a cracking final race, which saw American Magic narrowly win over Emirates Team New Zealand.
Let's begin with race 5. First up, Rossa.
Rossa Prada Pirelli. I'm going to guess their race day 1 was considered a mixed bag when it comes to the results they took off the water. The upside, the 2-headed driving monsters seem to be working well from what we can gather, especially during that aggressive pre-start jockeying with INEOS Team UK. But they need to find some pace. So let's see if Francesco Bruni, Jimmy Spithill, and main trimmer Pietro Sabello have made any obvious adjustments heading into critical 2-race day against the Americans.
I guess we have the Americans today, both races. We know it's going to be patchy, light, and the breeze will be up and down. We learned heaps from yesterday. We were light till 11 o'clock last night to look all the onboard footage and trying to figure it out and understand our mistake. I think today we stronger than yesterday and plenty to learn still.
Facing the Italians, the unbeaten Americans.
New York Yacht Club's American Magic impressed the world yesterday, winning 2 races on the opening day, having beaten INEOS Team UK and the defenders, Emirates Team New Zealand, in a nail-biter. Today they face Rossa in both of their races, and I'm sure Terry Hutchinson and crew will be keen to make it 3 from 3. The boat is looking very quick in yesterday's fresh southwest winds. Let's see how they go today in the lighter conditions.
We've got 2 races against the Italians today, so we're really looking forward to seeing how they go. We haven't seen them, lined up on an official starting line yet, so, we're fired up to see how Jimmy and Francesco are going to do.
We are again on Stadium Course C today for the races and back to the past with an upwind start. The match is completed on a classic upwind, downwind racetrack. Although this course may look conventional to the average sailor, leg lengths of 3.5 kilometers and a course width of only 1.5 kilometers creates a real challenge for boat handling and staying up in the foils. Multiple laps around the track, finishing downwind, each race should take about 25 minutes.
Day 2 of the Prada America's Cup World Series as we bring you over Rangitoto, an iconic landmark. It's 260 meters over the Hauraki Gulf. It's like a protector over the Waitemata Harbour, as you can see in the foreground, the spectator fleet on course C, and it really does promise to be a very special afternoon because we've got things to work with what happened yesterday on day number 1. Let's go right onto the course straight away. Shirley Robinson, our double Olympic gold medalist. Shirley, same course, opposite wind direction. How different is the setup today?
Well, Stephen, it's 180 degrees different. Northerly wind here, and currently it's about 12 knots. So the boats are flying around. But as you say, with the top gate nestled tightly under Auckland's iconic and massive volcanic island, Rangitoto, I promise there's going to be plenty of spice in this racetrack. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's really down to business today, isn't it? Especially for the challengers here. I mean, right now, they all want to know where they sit against each other. And that's where I see the real interest lying today. The Americans and the Italians twice go head-to-head. And let's remember, people, that's Jimmy Spittle against a certain Dean Barker. And we all know about that battle. And for me today, that's some mouth-watering action to look forward to.
Hi, Shirley. We have, yesterday we had really puffy, patchy water breeze. Kind of hard to tell a difference between big wind shifts and big gains on wind shifts and actually boat speed. Is it as puffy as we saw yesterday, or should this be a little more of a boat speed contest?
It's harder today, especially in that top half of the course. I mean, that's a massive island, 260 meters tall, and the top mark is right under it. It's going to be all on at the top half of this course. Real kind of extreme snakes and ladders.
Looking forward to hearing Shirley, who is our eyes on the water here, going around the world wherever you are. Welcome to Auckland, New Zealand, and choppy conditions today, Nathan. How much will that affect these forwarders at all?
It's definitely choppy out there, and that's caused by the current that's coming out of Auckland Harbour. It's going against the wind, so for the wind strength of 12 knots out there, it is a bit choppier, but it's pretty small chop still, so probably not going to be a huge factor in terms of their performance. I think the real thing that Shirley touched on earlier is just the wind strength at the top of the course and how the teams handle getting through that gate.
On board American Magic, they have been the impressive performer after one day, and I'm not sure whether everybody expected American Magic to be so impressive, Ken.
The word on the street has been for a while that they're good, they're happy in the breeze, and maybe not quite as happy as the breeze gets lighter, but today we should have plenty of breeze for this first race. Supposed to get lighter as the afternoon goes, so we might see them have to run the whole gamut of weather conditions.
2 minutes and 10 seconds when the Italians who have the port entry can come into the start box. And that is how it will work. Coming in from the starboard side will be American Magic, unbeaten yesterday, a win against INEOS by 5 minutes and by New Zealand by 12 seconds.
We've seen our first mistake of the day here, Nathan. I mean, it looked like Luna Rossa was really late in their setup, and now they're almost in a dial-up situation right now.
Yeah, Kenny, you can already see the red light flashing on the boat. They're going to get a penalty because they were inside that starting box before entry. And to me, it looked like Dean Barker went aggressive and went for the dial-up. Didn't end up panning out exactly how I was hoping it. But Luna Rossa are definitely on the back foot.
On board Luna Rossa, confirmation of the penalty. And that is certainly going to hurt their chances at the start of race 5, day 2 of the America's Cup World Series.
It sure seems like this setup is really causing trouble for these boats. They got to get up on the foils. We know that. You can't try to get out of the water until it's too late. We've seen people miss starts because of that. But that was just, my goodness, it just seemed like a complete timing error.
Happy to stay 2 boards. Yeah, copy. Killing 25. Keeping it.
Easy, Sicho. Thank you.
Board up here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pick it up here.
Pin is.
Full speed here. Marginal late for us.
This is the umpires. Italy, you do have a penalty. You do have a penalty for early entry.
Going to be starting on board, okay? Copy.
So that's the voice of Dean Barker on board American Magic. Time and distance, and then Prada has to drop back behind American Magic to get rid of their penalty. And they're out of position.
7 seconds to start. You heard Dean Barker call and turning, aiming up to the start line for race 5 of this America's Cup World Series. Remembering, penalty to Luna Rossa. And they are away and racing on day 2.
Rather unorthodox start, that one, wasn't it? Luna Rossa still have the penalty. They need to get behind.
This is the umpires.
American
Italy,
Magic.
you have a penalty. You have a penalty.
They do that by trying to make a tack. These penalties are a little bit complicated to explain, but basically they've got to get 50 metres behind the other boat. And when you're on opposite tacks, it's really hard to judge, you know, when this penalty is going to clear for them. But right now they're heading over to the left-hand side of the course, waiting for the umpires to turn this penalty off.
I mean, that was just I don't know what was going on in that pre-start. Honestly, it was completely unorthodox, as you just said.
Penalty clear, penalty clear.
There we go. That is the voice of head umpire Richard Slater. And penalty clear means they just dropped a couple boat lengths back behind American Magic by just tacking a couple times, Nathan. So they've clearly talked about that as a strategy of how to clear a penalty.
Yeah, well, one of the things with these boats is that if you drop off the foils, the boat slows aggressively and takes a very long time to get going. As we see American Magic having a really bad tack here.
Wow.
Lots of leeward heel. Windward foil didn't come up quick enough.
Reset here. Reset.
Just trying to get on the foil.
Yep.
Moment of holding your breath for American Magic. You heard Dean Barker say, over, and they haven't gone over. But wow, how about that? Didn't see that one coming.
Very unstable. Just maybe a timing issue with the boards. It could have been, I mean, literally, could be thousands of things. One of 1,000 things could go wrong. Here comes a replay, and we'll try to pick out what was actually wrong, Nathan.
To me, it looks like the windward board's not lifting up here quick enough. Windward board down for too long. Until that comes up, you don't get the riding moment of it coming up. Not only is it an issue, it tips the boat over. It's lifting all the time. You can hear them on board complaining about it.
Reset here. Reset.
Yeah. You got it?
I just don't get why they weren't easing the main sheet when that was happening too. Like, how hard is it? I'm sure it's not that easy, but I'm just thinking right now, if you're leaning over, you've got to either head up to depower, or you've got to just twist the mainsail to keep the boat under control.
And it just gives you an indication of how these boats are being sailed on the edge. How crazy is that? Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, they get a penalty at the start. Suddenly, American Magic almost tipped the boat. And Patriots dead in the water for a moment, but they're back and forth. That's how good these boats are. Mistake, get them up, but how costly.
Oh, so costly. You remember the racing yesterday. American Magic didn't put a foot wrong. Nice tacks, clean tacks you see here now. That's a much better tack, and that's what they're expected to do on it every single time. And an error like that so early in the race is going to be very hard for them to get back into this one.
It'll be fascinating to ask whether that was a bug or that was just human error. You know, we just never know right now because there's so much new to all of us, including the sailors, by the way. It'll be fascinating to ask and maybe see if we get an actual answer to the question.
Shirley Robertson on the water. What did you make of that?
Stephen, I thought we were going to get our first capsize in slow motion. I mean, how dramatic, as Kenny said, we don't really quite know why. It would be great to speak to them at the end of the race. But just watching coming around the top mark, Luna Rossa taking full advantage of American Magic's mistake.
So Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli go around the top gate, and they are well in front of American Magic, who must be ruining that moment, that board struggling to get up. When we talk about weights of boards, how heavy are these boards to get up?
Well, I know, Nathan, there is an actual minimum weight on the board. It's why some of these boats actually have bulbs or torpedoes instead of just bigger wings.
American Magic now heading towards the top gate. And there must be some silent curses going on amongst that lead crew as to why that board didn't go up, and they gave away an advantage knowing that they were ahead of Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, who had picked up a penalty for an early entry into the start.
Hundreds of meters that turned into. One mistake turned into hundreds and hundreds of costly, hard-earned meters for the Americans. And these guys still, I mean, maybe they were lacking for pace at times yesterday, but they're always smooth. They're really smooth in their maneuvers. Now we've put the commentator's curse on them, of course.
Lighter at the bottom, yeah. Kenny, going back to your earlier question, foil weight is just short of 1.4 tons. That's hanging out to win with it. So that's a lot of riding moment. 1.4 tons.
And like you said, it's probably lifting at the same time. So if it's in the water, it's doing two things. It's not out to weather where you want the weight, and it's probably lifting at the same time, creating a healing moment and turning the boat over even harder.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to think there will be confidence from the fans of American Magic because we know how quick that boat was downwind yesterday.
We're about to find out. We'll do some timings here. That's really one of the features. When the boat is so far apart, boats are so far apart, timing the legs gives you at least some semblance of an idea as to boat speed. And Nathan, they're going with bigger jibs here today too. Maybe even like a Code 2 jib.
Yeah, that looks like a Code 2 jib. And I think they're probably setting up for the top of the course. The last thing you want to do is get caught being underpowered. So they're probably a little bit overpowered down the bottom part of the course where there's more wind, but the last thing you want to do is get caught at the top of your course underpowered and off your foils.
A beautiful shot looking at it from up high from our heli shot. It looks like a missile going straight at, you know, an X set on its target. The target, of course, being the bottom gate.
You know, one thing we also haven't really commented on yet, Nathan, is the fact that that's an all-Italian boat except for one helmsman, and it kind of sounds to me like Jimmy hasn't had to learn a whole lot of Italian. That they've kind of switched their comms towards English. Couple jives here. This isn't a perfect setup coming into this leeward gate, but they just can't come off the foils. American Magic just learned that the hard way.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli heading into the bottom gate to complete 2 legs of 6. You got to love it when those 2 falls go down. They just simply coast, and they certainly not coasting around here because they are getting away like a robber's dog on American Magic. And believe it or not, how quickly did American Magic turn up at that bottom gate as well?
Those 2 jibes really hurt him coming into the bottom gate, Nathan.
Yeah, I think that just shows you how much you lose if you have to do the extra jibe. You know, it's really penalised them a lot. You know, they didn't fall off the foils, but the boat slows down a lot when both of those foils are in the water. And now we have a split set up here. We've got a bit of separation, a bit of leverage between the 2 boats. And if there's any form of right-hand shift here, American Magic could be right back into this race.
Again, Stephen, it's one tiny mistake. My goodness, does it turn into a massive problem in a short period of time.
So we're heading upwind, heading towards the halfway point. This is leg 3 of 6, and already we've seen a penalty that allowed American Magic to get away. About halfway up the first leg, American Magic almost tipped the boat. Coming down to the bottom gate, what happens? An extra jibe, and suddenly American Magic are back in the game.
Very accurate, Stephen. I'm proud of you for picking up on this stuff. Our rookie sailor in the booth.
We just don't want to get stuck on the boundary.
You got it, boy.
Comes out again.
Shirley, we got a race.
We have a race, that's for sure. I'm not sure with American Magic, though, if it was all about that final manoeuvre. To me, they were rocking that run. They looked so fast. The bow down just looked to be eating up the distance. I think they've got wheels, particularly on those downwind legs. And interestingly, this course, 6 legs, another 2 downwind legs to claw back into the Italians.
Yep, my wheel. He tags. Working this up straight away. If he hits us here, we've only got 20 the other way at the moment. You can almost punch through, give us a bit, yeah, no problem with him. Working this up.
So that conversation there, Nathan, they were talking through a tactical scenario. If they got tacked on right there, were they going to try to tack twice? They decided they didn't have enough distance to the left-hand gate, to the left-hand side of the course. At some stage, he said, we'll just try to punch through, and then up. No harm, no foul. They continued anyway. But that's the type of conversation between a tactician and a helmsperson that's happening all the time.
Yeah, it was great comms off the boat there, and you know, it's exactly what is happening every race. There's a scenario, we go with plan A, if the boat does this, we take plan B. These guys practice and train for this, you know, at home, in the classroom, and what we see here right now is it looks like American Magic to lure it, but maybe starting a little higher, starting to close the gauge a bit. They know there's 3 laps. They've just got to close the gap and try and put a bit more pressure on to draw a mistake on the final lap.
How encouraged have you, Dean Barker, to the response of what happened on that opening leg? And now look where you are. And you're only almost approaching the halfway mark.
You can hear it in his voice. You know, big gain either way. You know, this is a, you know, we're all human, right? So he would have been very bummed out at that one maneuver. But all of a sudden, when you're back in the race, it's like, okay, we've been given a reprieve.
We're back. Yeah, just green on the ley line. Yeah, copy. Okay, standing by, Goody. Anytime. 2, 1, wood down. Turning. Yep, my wheel. He's easy cross, but he'll be tacking in front.
He goes more down, hits the lure.
Copy, working it up.
That's that position, Nathan, you talked about. The apparent wind is so tight on these boats, in essence, you have to tack directly in front, really, to try to affect them.
Fans of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli happy with where their boat is at the moment. American Magic will follow Prada Pirelli around the top gate to complete leg number 3 of 6. But there is nothing in this, as we remind you how quick American Magic is downwind. And I'm sure Jimmy Spittle is all too aware of that.
They've got some pace, don't they, the Americans? Plenty of boat speed down here. This, I think, is going to be a really interesting downwind. I think it's a good chance to compare the speeds. Just listen on board and hear the chatter.
Standing by. Anytime for me. 2, 1. Port down. He goes same time. Hit it, boys.
Just looked like a more powered up jibe on American Magic. These guys had to come up a little higher out of the jibe to kind of keep the thing flying, and American Magic just gained a little bit more again right there on that last maneuver. We've got a sailboat race here.
You know, novices of this type of sailing, Kenny and Nathan, they'll be asking. Dean Barker knew exactly what was going on. He says they're going to drive, we'll drive as well.
Yep.
Yeah, well, coming up to the boundary there, there's really not a huge choice, but again, everybody's blind in the boat, right? So he's almost doing their own play-by-play in order to keep the whole crew into the race and what exactly is going on.
20 seconds. Yeah, going to be standing by here, Goody. 13 to boundary. 10. Anytime. 2, 1, down.
So let's go to Shirley Robinson on the water. How quick is American Magic in this race? And can you see the gains?
Well, they're slower perhaps on this leg than on the other downwind leg, but yeah, just inching forward. And I think Kenny hit the nail on the head, really. They just look more powered up. You know, they're rarely kissing the water. They're just keeping the boat high and flying, and seem to be able to do whatever they want with it. They look, if I had to pick a boat to be in right now, it would definitely be the Americans, just slowly drawing them in on this run.
Yeah.
There's a shot right off the back of the mast. And by the way, for all of you Italian fans out there, one of the reasons we're only hearing the voices coming off of American Magic is the comms, the specific comms that are on. 4 different members of the crew on Luna Rossa are down right now. So we are not doing this on purpose. We love hearing the comms coming off these boats.
Keep coming up. We're committed to a left-hand turn here.
Copy.
Happy for you to go anytime, Goody.
Stephen, you're finding out that they don't need us in the booth anymore. We just have these guys mic'd up and they call the shots.
We'll go down in 3.
Here we go to the bottom
2,
gate, and
1.
it is not that much of a difference. First to go around will be Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli team. And it'll be an opposed rounding as American Magic take the right-hand marker as we see it, and they begin leg 5 of 6. They're on the home run.
Okay, standing by here. I'll stay. We should just get on the wind here first.
Nathan, they did a nice job. Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spithill coming into that mark. They minimized maneuvers and they forced American Magic to do a tough maneuver at the same time and maybe doubled out their lead again to a couple 100 meters from that single 100 meters.
Yeah, they did a great job picking that ley line from such a long distance away, making sure the moting of the boat was correct, that they still laid the bottom mark, and forcing the opponent to actually take the unfavored mark, do the harder maneuver. And now they're just rolling into attack onto starboard and getting back in phase with American Magic. It looks like they've made a reasonable gain and maybe a little bit of breathing space now.
We were talking a lot about American Magic coming back in this race, but on the other hand, you got to give Luna Rossa plenty of credit. They came back, they're pressed. You feel it in your bones, right? There's tension coming in. As the boat getting ground down, you feel the tension, but they kept their composure. He looks pretty, Francesco Bruni looks pretty relaxed right now. So they give them credit for fending off the press and actually starting to extend a little bit again.
When you look at Bruni in that shot there, it looks like he's out for a Sunday drive, but we know they're going at least 30+ knots.
shot of the day right there, boys and girls. We've never seen anything like this before, folks, and we're just starting to figure out how to do it, and it's something else.
45 that way. Feels like we should probably take it here pretty soon. Yep.
Approaching this top mark for the last time in this race. We're on leg 5 of 6. What's the play, Nathan, when you're American Magic, knowing that you have got some speed downwind? I know I keep harping on about that, but we've seen that in the first day already.
Yeah, they've got good speed, I think, downwind and upwind relative to Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli. But they're struggling to get around them. You know, they made that loss by taking a bit too much distance, the extra maneuver at the bottom of the course. Right now, they're talking about where they should tack, trying to get in phase with the wind shifts a little bit more. And they can't pass them by just following them because they're going to keep getting tacked on. Dirty air is going to slow them down. So they've got to find an avenue to go around them. And I think maybe their gains earlier on in that second lap were getting in phase with the shifty conditions out there. They've taken an opportunity to get out of phase. Let's see if they can pick up something on the left-hand side of the course.
Rough rock could be an issue for us here.
Interesting watching the bow and the front of that boat, Nathan, how it's actually touching the water for the first time. I wonder whether, because that runs pretty flat, American Magic, doesn't it? That's how choppy it is out there today.
Yeah, that chop is definitely, you know, there's a few chop and troughs out there and they're just skimming the hull. Little touchdown every now and then seals the air to the boat perfectly, but if you touch it too hard, it's too much drag.
Fascinating that Luna Rossa has decided to split here. Yesterday, in the race between American Magic and the Kiwis, we saw hard, tight match racing, and these guys kind of probably saw the shifts. They decided to let it go. They decided the shift was less of a risk than it was to try to start tacking with American Magic, and boy, oh boy, Nathan, it looks like it worked.
Yeah, it looked like big left-hand phase through the middle there. Luna Rossa realised they could make it to the top marks in one more tack, get to the ley line, minimise the manoeuvre, and big gains for them.
Stunning.
So for the last time in race 5, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli flies into the top gate. They have about a 300-metre lead on American Magic. Looking back at this race, you're going to say, how did they manage that?
Some big wind shifts out there, Shirley.
Massive, Kenny, and I think, you know, you could see it on the screen. You know, they picked the right-hand side. The Italians were in phase that entire beat, and just sailed smart and sailed clean and was in phase with the breeze. The breeze is now up. You can see that they are motoring down in this final leg of the race.
You saw, Nathan, they were trying to let the Traveler down, and there's a boat at the other end. You kept clanking it off the edge of the
hitting the stopper, wasn't it? It was like just Traveler, smash, smash, and I guess that's at that point you got to steer. If you can't ease anymore, you got to steer to it.
We are on the homeward run in race number 5 between Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, who have about a 280-metre lead on American Magic, who are unbeaten in the America's Cup World Series to this point. They picked up that 5-minute win against INEOS and the 12-second win yesterday against Emirates Team New Zealand, while Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli were gifted a win after INEOS's troubles and were beaten by 3 minutes and 13 seconds by Emirates Team New Zealand. So this will be a huge morale booster for Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli as they look on. But look at those speeds. 43-odd knots by Italy.
And we haven't, it ain't over yet, because we saw one splashdown meant 700 meters. But they look smooth. The Prada boat looks smooth through maneuvers. We haven't really seen them make a big maneuver mistake. Even in the race that they lost yesterday, they didn't really make a big maneuver mistake.
Sailing very smoothly, very consistently, and took control of this race early on through a mistake of their competitor, and from then onwards got the elbows out when the challenge came, and now they're just looking forward. No one's looking backwards. Everyone knows that they have to focus on their own jobs to get it to the finish line.
how important in this America's Cup to capitalize quickly on that one mistake.
Well, that's sailboat racing in a sense, and you know, you have to capitalize because you're gonna be shredded if you don't. Boat speed's one thing, but tactics and capitalization on other people's mistakes, it's a must. It's a must to be successful in this sport. The two-headed monster is still doing okay, Nathan.
That boat's going just fine. Going just fine.
And for those of you just joining us, Luna Rossa is the only boat out there that the helmsmen actually don't switch sides. Francesco Bruni drives on port tack, and Jimmy Spithill drives on starboard tack. It's a totally novel approach to how to do this. Nobody switches sides.
I would love to have known what those Luna Rossa fans were chanting at the America's Cup Village, but certainly wasn't Bella Bella. Whatever it was, it would be Bella, because here comes Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli to pick up win number 2, and a win for real this time too, against the unbeaten American Magic in race 5. Huge result for them, even if it's just a psychological win, as American Magic coming behind them and cross the finish line. Considering that they almost tipped the boat, that's a hell of a result.
Just great commentary from Dean Barker in that race, and again, it shows you how blind I think Nathan, the leeward side of the boat is. So I have a feeling that whoever is steering to windward is over communicating in order to just keep that leeward side of the boat in the game. They don't know. You can't see anything, right?
It's the only way to keep not just the people on the leeward side of the boat, but your grinders who are powering the boat, and they need to know how many seconds to the next maneuver because they're shifting gears and changing all the different hydraulic functions on board. So you're basically doing a play-by-play of what you're thinking is going to happen and how the race is going to pan out. Otherwise, the guys up front ask you what happened when the race is over.
Did we race?
I think they know they raced.
There will be happy, smiling faces aboard Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli team, getting what you would consider their first genuine win after being awarded one against INEOS yesterday. Let's confirm the race result. Wow, how about that? Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli beat American Magic by 12 seconds, the same margin that American Magic beat Emirates Team New Zealand yesterday.
The pre-start was one of the strangest pre-starts I've ever seen in my life, Jimmy, and I've seen a few of them. Luna Rossa was really late coming in to try to get into their position, and in fact got a penalty for being outside the box. And then all of a sudden both boats start on port tack. Luna Rossa, knowing that they have to, you know, they were late on America. It just, everything was disjointed in that first pre-start. But the fact remained, Luna Rossa had to burn off a penalty, and it was very interesting. They burned it off by tacking twice. But then came the big one, and I'll let you call this because I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, it looks like obviously a bad tack. It looks like they just got way too much leeward heel on the exit. Foil was late to come up. Sails didn't get eased off. One thing we know is you've got to sail the boat flat at all times. Anytime you heel to leeward at all here in HSC is the exit here. The heel calms, the foil's not coming up, the main sheet's not getting let off at all. And all of a sudden over she goes. You've basically got to stop, put the boat back in the water, reset, ease the sails off, and it's a long, slow build from there. You see here, this is the moment it all goes wrong. That foil is just tipping the boat over. It's not coming up perfectly. Sail's not getting let off right now. Very hard to recover from that.
The sails just never really got let off, and I'm sure that is a major project in its own right. But back they came. They were behind by 700 meters was American Magic. Next thing you know, they're a few boat lengths behind. And let's give credit where credit is due. The Luna Rossa group did not panic. They actually stretched it back out again. They sailed confidently, they sailed well, they put themselves in between themselves and the American Magic and the mark when they had to, and then they stretched it out and found a really nice couple of wind shifts to come across with a 12-second victory at the end. And you know what? We're seeing a real regatta. This is great. Nobody running away.
On board Luno Rossa, Prada Pirelli right now. Let's go to one of the twin helmsmen, Francesco Bruni, who joins us right now. Francesco, congratulations on the win, but what happened at the start to draw the penalty?
Happened on the start. Yeah, everything happened on the start. We had some problems with the timing again, and it was a little bit frustrating to have that penalty, but we cleared it off, and we did a fantastic race after that, so I'm very proud with the team.
You should be proud. Hi, Francesco. Ken Reed. Hey, going up that beat, all of a sudden you see that you see the other boat having troubles. That was on your side of the boat, so that's why I can ask you the question. You guys don't swap out. Did you see what happened with American Magic during that bad tack? I don't think we have Francesco at this stage. So, oh, he's back. Did you see what happened? Did you see what happened to American Magic during that tack? Because they were on your side, and you probably had bird's eye view.
Problem. Still a big problem, this can system for everybody. I think that's what the Americans had on that moment.
Got it. Thank you, Francesco. Nice job. Congratulations.
On board to American Magic, helmsman Dean Barker. Dean, crazy race. Can you tell us what happened with your foil cant arm?
Yeah, well, you know, it was a bit frustrating, to be honest. We, yeah, had a nice position, and yeah, it just didn't come up out of the tack, and yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that was kind of put us on the back foot. But you know, really impressed with how well we got back into the race a couple of times, and you know, we were a long way back a couple of times, and you know, sort of kept coming back at them. So you know, I think a lot of positives to take out of it, but yeah, frustrating not to get the win.
So that was, Dean, Kenny Reed, that was then, you think, a mechanical error and not a human error coming out of that tack?
Yeah, we got to check. You know, it's it seemed to work okay after that, but you know, these boats, you know, pretty difficult at times. You know, you're never quite sure what the issue is, but yeah, if in doubt, blame the boat.
Cracking race, good to watch. We'll see you again on the water later on.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
Here is our moment, our key moment of the race, and that was the tack. The tack went from, like Dean said, completely controlling position after the penalty had to get assessed to Luna Rossa, and bad tack. Like you said, I don't think any of these guys ever really know what went wrong until they come in and probably look at all the data afterwards, Nathan. But one thing is for sure, bad tack's bad tack, no matter what kind of boat you're in, an Opti or a America's Cup boat, and you're going to lose. And man, they lose a lot when there's a problem like this.
Yeah, well, one thing's for sure, there's a lot of people reviewing the data of these boats. You know, by the time the race is over and they're back on shore tonight, someone in the team will have identified, was that human error, or was the button that they were pushing, bringing the board up, not sending the signal to that black box?
No place to hide.
There's nowhere to hide on these boats. I've been there so many times. You'd think, no, that wasn't me. I didn't push that button. And someone goes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's really obvious that you did.
That's fantastic.
Let us get ready for race number 6, and it's the home team.
Well, Emirates Team New Zealand, one good, one bad yesterday. And yes, these teams are here to learn, but you have to imagine that the ultra-competitive defenders of the America's Cup were a bit disappointed with their final race against the Americans. Word on the street is that Team New Zealand is fast, but a few boat issues and a couple of surprising unforced errors led to an almost comeback against American Magic. Look for Blair Tuke Glenn Ashby and Peter Burling to right a few wrongs today.
The racing we're going to get before March, so we're just making the most of it and trying to dial in on our processes ahead of the Cup. Yeah, you know, we're always going out there trying to put our best foot forward and trying to win every race we can. So, you know, for us, we'll sort of judge ourselves off our processes more than anything, but we're definitely here to take the win.
Facing New Zealand, the British Challenge.
INEOS Team UK. And after an opening day to forget and a long night of making repairs to the foil can system, INEOS Team UK are back in action. Let's hope that the engineers have been able to identify and fix the problems that forced their retirements yesterday's racing. Sir Ben Ainsley and the team will be looking to make the most of the ideal racing conditions while they continue to debug their boat.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big ask against the Kiwis. They've certainly set the pace against all the teams. You know, we just got to look at our own performance and set our bar against, you know, what we think we can achieve and against our own kind of targets and analysis. So that's our goal today, and go and put our best foot forward.
So it's Burling against Ainsley, and it's race 6 on day 2 of the America's Cup World Series. And those are the onboards for Emirates Team New Zealand on the left-hand side, INEOS Team UK on the right-hand side, and INEOS Team UK would really like to see something out of today. Yesterday, just a forgettable day, but, you know, an encouraging sign when they docked out today. I've got to say, there was cheers and claps of all their supporters. And you know what? I felt good for them. They're out there. They had all sorts of problems. And, you know, Kenny and Nathan, they went, yep, let's go again, lads.
Well, they certainly had a bad day yesterday, and nobody wants to be on global television having a day like that. It's one thing if you're in your backyard, you know, on a Tuesday night beer can race, but I think they're back out. They believe in themselves, first of all, Nathan. You know, you don't win 4 gold medals if you don't believe in yourself.
INEOS Team UK, race committee.
You're absolutely right there, Ken. There's plenty of talent on this boat.
UK, we can now see tactical data.
So that's INEOS Team UK just communicating with the race committee, making sure that they're getting the right
yes, we can see data
before the start. But you're right, you know, someone like Ben Ainsley's got a lot of belief in himself, in the team. You know, that engineering team would have been in the shed all night long, fixing whatever bugs they had. They've been out on the race course for the last couple of hours, sailing around, and everything that we've seen looks like they're doing just fine.
Let's go to double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robinson on the water. And Shirley, how encouraging to see INEOS up on its fours and doing what it should be doing, because they've been the story for the last 24 hours.
Both competitors, this is the chief umpire. We'll be making umpire signals via the radio. Umpire signals via the radio. Any protests, please say so.
For about the last 2.5 hours, looking great. And you know, if anyone watched the press conference yesterday, you know, Ben Ainsley was at his limit of frustration, I think, and today he really wants a result. He looks confident in the boat. He's been throwing it round. There's been a bit of indecision with all the teams about jib selection. It's a big deal, I think. The crossovers are really tight. They've got 6 jibs to pick from, and obviously the breeze is very up and down here. But yeah, he's rattling past us right now at about 40 knots. He's determined to get a score on the scoreboard.
Emirates Team New Zealand late into the start box, and it looked like on time.
Yeah, again, these guys are having really hard time with just setting the boats up for this entry. And you would think it would be something very simple, but it's making for an action. They both got in on time, no penalties, and now comes the setup. No great comms coming off the boat, but this is the time and distance part. A minute to go to the start. Ainsley setting up well above the line and is going to come roaring in on starboard tack. Whereas Emirates Team New Zealand will be more towards a ley line, or maybe even setting themselves up for a port tack start.
Looking at the start line, it looks like the left-hand mark, this little red mark on the left-hand side of our screen.
I think this is the start line. There you go,
is the favoured end. It looks like there's a left-hand wind shift, and Team New Zealand are going to roll into attack and actually approach this line on port. INEOS Team UK have big decision here to either work out, are they going to try and sail him into Coffin Corner, hold him out, or if they're going to just go on their own time on distance with about 15 seconds to go now.
Here comes a port tack start, a dip. Could be a dial down at the same time. 80 knot closing speeds.
Yeah, up hard.
Now they're past the ley line. Should he have dialed down there or just go up? That ultra-aggressive move by Ainsley might have cost him.
Keeping it low for you, 50 TWA.
Great three-start maneuvers by both yachts, and we are away on it.
Big jib here, boys.
I think Ben Ainsley there was, Ben Ainsley went really aggressive on the dial down there, and I think he kind of blew it.
Yeah,
Team New Zealand, he let them off the hook. He didn't force them to tackle jibe. He didn't park the start. And now Emirates Team New Zealand slightly ahead to leeward, sailing up to the boundary, going to come out on starboard tack. Really tight situation developing here.
That could be frustration and aggression all at once. You know, trying to take it all out in one shot. But boy, oh boy, you would have thought if he had just pulled him in and crossed the starting line, he'd have a several boat length lead rather than holding on for dear life here. With Emirates Team New Zealand about to be able to tack onto starboard and actually have right away coming off the boundary.
I think he's thinking the same thing. If he's going to go, he'll go shortly. 20 seconds. I think it's after green, please. 18 to boundary. 16, 15, 14. By. 3, 2, 1. Alright. Turning. He's gone below. Heavy press. Good angle. My wheel, my roll.
That was a nice looking tack, wasn't it? Both boats foiling tacking, and INEOS boat looks like it's working fine today.
The good news is if you're a British fan, you've got a race boat at least right now. May not have gone perfectly off the starting line, but you got a race boat.
Just looking for a nice solid late to right turn. He will face us.
That's the voice of Giles Scott. We're on board the British boat with the comms. He will face us, which means when they tack, when the black boat tacks, the red boat's going to go right on top of them and try to disturb their air.
Go all the way to boundary here, Ben, to be sure. The lane.
Giles Scott trying to be a tactician to leeward, Nathan. How hard would that be if you're on the low side of the boat?
Well, definitely on this tack, it's going to really be difficult to see Emirates Team New Zealand up to windward, but he's probably looking at a little race software. You know, they've got computer systems on board in his cockpit, so he'll be looking at course geometry and, you know, where the ley line is. He's saying if you go to boundary, that'll be a ley line. They've just dropped the foil rolling into attack. This one's looking very nice once again. And as expected, Team New Zealand facing right on top of them and no getting by in that position.
Giles called it right there.
Emirates Team New Zealand and INEOS Team UK falling towards the top gate. Leg 1 of 6 and race 6 of the America's Cup World Series here on the Waitemata Harbour in Auckland, New Zealand, as they head towards Rangitoto, this iconic landmark.
You know, that you can really see the disturbed air, whereas UK actually was right behind Team New Zealand when they tacked, and look at how far they've fallen off.
Emirates Team New Zealand. You heard the call. They were very close to that marker. They had to pull out. How? Wow!
He can't see anything.
That could have been carnage.
He can't see anything. That's why Dean Barker is actually driving to leeward, going around a lot of these marks. You can't see anything when you're up to windward, so you're totally reliant on somebody down to leeward to tell you what to do.
I'd love to hear the comms coming off that boat approaching that mark. I'm pretty sure I heard Glenn Ashby say, no lower, no lower. Pete, listen to me, no lower. And they had to do a wiggle around it. Could you imagine if they hit that mark doing 40 knots?
I wouldn't want to be the mark. I wouldn't want to be one of those, but those wings, yeah, no, I can't imagine.
Let's remember all the chatter coming off all the teams. This is about developing their ability to race these boats fast and hard, and they're learning every day. That could have been a costly lesson for Emirates Team New Zealand.
Yeah, if they'd hit that mark, it would not have been a pretty sight. Luckily, they missed it. You know, great reactions and good communication between the two teams. And they got around that mark and did a really nice job in extending their lead now.
I suppose, too, that Peter Burling is a 49er sailor. He knows how to throw a boat around.
4, 3,
Here we
no
go.
law, no law, no law, 2, 1, away you go. Listen to the comms. Sorry.
There you go. Listen to my comms.
And then Pete says, sorry.
No law, no law, no law, 2, 1, away you go. Listen to the
Oh,
comms.
that was close.
Listen to my comms. That was the voice of father saying,
3,
kid.
no law, no law, no law, 2, 1, away you go. Listen to the comms.
Sorry.
Sorry, Dad.
Pop, I know I'm scolded. You're grounded, kid.
30 down the way, so we'll do full fence. Copy.
So while we all gather our breath after
back to the races.
that moment, back to the downward leg number 2 of 6 in race 6. And oh my goodness, we have seen it all in these first 1.5 races. Shirley, could you believe what you saw there?
I've been pretty close to those marks, Steve, and you would not want to hit them. They are hard. They are solid. But I think we've all been in that position, steering to windward, not quite seeing the mark. I'm watching the Kiwis now just extending away, completely got in their stride, like we saw yesterday in the first race. When they're free and they're off, they have an extra. They just have an extra bit of pace.
Those marks are about 3 metres high, 2.5 metres wide, and they are not to be messed with. I had a look inside one. You could actually have a nice little party in one of those too. It'd be a nice little place to have a
They're made of fiberglass, right? They're not soft, so most of us go around marks that are blow-up marks that you can actually boink right into, and these things would do damage, especially to $8 billion fins.
There would be no boinking on these marks. As Emirates Team New Zealand head into the bottom gate, that completes 2 legs of 6, and they just take it nice and quietly around that mark. There's no panic on that rounding.
By the way, we failed to mention the top speed yesterday in 12 knots of breeze was 49.1 knots.
Emirates Team New Zealand.
Unbelievable.
Well, I'd like to know, when we'll get to Glenn after INEOS Team UK rounds this bottom gate, as to how fast the cats were going, because there is suggestion these are quicker than cats, and you know, if you're a novice, that sounds crazy, but INEOS Team UK completing leg number 2 and heading on the upward leg, leg number 3, 30 seconds behind Emirates Team New Zealand.
Yeah, I think we just unfortunately just got to follow under pressure. Looks okay here.
Catamarans in Bermuda were fast, but not quite as quick as these boats. I'm pretty sure top speed we got out of our boat there once was about 47 knots, so a couple of knots faster at this point, but it's not been windy yet either, has it?
And you had a bit more protection too. You were standing, were you not, in those things?
I was standing and I had 5 guys in front of me, but I tell you what, when the catamaran hull plunges through the water, it's still a good fire hose in the face, that's for sure.
Turning.
You know, we were talking about all the marks on the race course and how hard they are, but you also look on the left-hand side right here. There's a buoy. They're green and red buoys. There's channel markers all over the place in the middle of this race course, and it's got to be a bit of a concern for these guys because again, they're so concentrated. They're so dialed into what they're doing. All of a sudden, a little mark, and those things are metal, by the way. Those you lose with those every time. I guarantee you that.
Come on, Kenny, you're saying you don't want to challenge?
I'm saying I have hit a lot of marks in my day, and you never win. Never.
Man, you must have a lot of shore crew that get upset with you on the boats you sail.
That could be the understatement of the century. The shore crew, all my buddies in shore crews, please do not send me a text and tell me how much you dislike me over the years.
So, despite the awkward rounding at the top gate, Emirates Team New Zealand has recovered nicely, thank you very much. A 30-second margin ahead of INEOS Team UK.
Sort of good lefties from the halfway
mark of the course. Of the second leg.
Feels like it's left all the way to the top from here. Yeah, nice.
If you're Ben Ainsley right now,
I'm happy.
Yeah, very happy, aren't you? Your boat's functioning. This is really the first time we've seen them do proper racing around a racetrack in the last week. So, you know, to all those guys that spent the entire night in the shed trying to debug the system on board, looks to have done the work. And, you know, all you can think as a sailor is like, man, I'm so glad I've got some intelligent people in my team to fix the boat for me.
how much are small rewards like this to the shore crew? Seeing the boat up and flying, considering what happened in the last 24, in fact, the last week prior to the start of the Prada America's Cup World Series.
Unsung. I mean, when you sign up for the shore crew, you know you're not signing up for the limelight, and you know you're signing up for ridiculously long hours and not a lot of thanks. I think the good teams do give their short crews a lot of thanks, but it's never out in the open. It's behind closed doors, and you gotta love what you do, I'll tell you that. And you gotta be smart, you gotta be really good at it, because you're not on the shore team at this level without really knowing your stuff.
Shirley, just briefly, encouraging signs from INEOS Team UK.
Stephen, I think they'll be delighted to be getting around this course and looking in great shape, and always a big ask, I think, to beat the Kiwis today. So big happy faces all round at Team INEOS.
Emirates Team New Zealand.
5.
About to round the top gate.
1, away you go.
To complete leg number 3 of 6. Keep your eye on the margin. Bottom right of your screen, it was 30 seconds at the bottom gate. What will it be at the top gate? Have INEOS Team UK made any gains?
I agree with Shirley, Nathan. I think they got to be, you know, pretty happy right now. They're getting around the race course. They look under control. Their ride height seems to be much smoother. The whole package seems to be quite a bit better today.
INEOS Team UK now.
Staying high a little bit so we get a tight turn.
My wheel, copy.
You can hear the voice of Sir Ben Ainsley, their skipper, as they do the rounding of the right-hand markers. You see at the top gate, they're halfway through this race now. Heading downwind on the bottom leg, and the gap is extended now 45 seconds, so it's a 15-second gain on the leg by Emirates Team New Zealand.
It's just okay.
You know, Nathan, as we're looking at that boat coming into the mark, these guys run around the boat a lot. Compared to some of these other teams, I mean, there's bodies shifting all over the place all the time.
Yeah, the back three are crossing and sharing their duties. Giles Scott's often to leeward in a straight line. He'll grab the wheel mid-maneuver and do the driving while Ben Ainsley crosses the boat, and Blenheim Munn, who's on the mainsail control, is switching sides back and forward. Honestly, it's no different to what Emirates Team New Zealand are doing. It's just a little bit more obvious to us, I think, because they're going around the back of the sail. It's a little bit more awkward. You know, Blair Tuke and Pete Burling on the windward side of the boat. This is Glenn Ashby on camera here. Pete Burling here with the wheel in his hands. Those three guys are doing the switches too. But it just seems a bit smoother than what we're seeing off a lot of the other teams.
There is tension, though, all the time in these guys. They're holding on to, Glenn was holding on to a handle on the side of the boat.
Is it a handle or is it a control?
Okay. You're the expert.
Well, there's only one way to find out. We ask them and see if they're ever going to tell us, but it definitely looks like there is a handle on the inside, and it looks like a throttle. He's just twisting his wrist ever so slightly. We can ask him what it does, but I bet you he'll never tell us.
It really is a beautiful picture. The Rangitoto, the spectator fleet in front of it. And then we go inside the pits. They like to call those the pits of Emirates Team New Zealand.
2, 1, firing. Your wheel, thank you. Copy. Ladder. 1, 2. Board down out. All yours. I reckon after a yellow blip, before yellow, I reckon. And 3, 2, 1, firing. Happy board.
Conversation was after yellow or before yellow. And there's a lousy jive.
Emirates Team New Zealand dumping just before the bottom gate. Oh, yes! Put your hands up to your face. Why wouldn't you? Your boat's been sailing so beautifully, flying down towards the bottom gate, and you've dumped it. But now, I'm always intrigued by this, how quickly they get back up on the falls. And there they go again. They're round the bottom gate, but another mistake. This is not smooth. It was smooth up until that point.
I'd love to see a replay of exactly what happened there, and we can dissect that for the viewers at home. Okay, so mid-jibe here really looks sweet. Oh, the rudder lets go. Look at the white water coming off the rudder. The moment the rudder lets go, you lose steerage, and then you load the front foils, and it's pretty much all over. Big splash down there. That's exactly what happened to Ben Ainsley yesterday.
I won't be able to
INEOS Team UK, will they have made up any time on that splashdown by Emirates Team New Zealand? They get into the bottom gate.
2, 1.
Well, they've picked up some. They've probably picked up about 5 seconds on that splashdown. So Emirates Team New Zealand still comfortably in front, but scary little moment. We're getting plenty on day 2 of the Prada America's Cup World Series, my word.
Welcome to the beginning of America's Cup trials. It's when it's best to be a commentator, frankly, because mistakes are made. We have something to talk about.
Got to say one thing, the pictures we are getting and being able to come back and see exactly what's happening, never seen before. We're taking you to places like this, inside the grinding pits, out to the race village, people sitting comfortably, having a good day out. And man, the sailors are entertaining today.
Seeing some errors, aren't we? Not just from, well, actually, we're not seeing any errors today from INEOS Team UK. We're actually seeing the errors coming off Emirates Team New Zealand. Shirley, were you near that jibe at all? What did it look like from on the water?
Probably expecting to see another.
Pretty spectacular, Nathan. I guess the most impressive thing about that is how quickly they got going again. It wasn't in any way terminal. They managed to accelerate, to get out of trouble really quickly and really well.
It was fascinating, Shirley, that they decided, let's round the mark. Let's not try to get up right away. Let's actually round the mark first and try to get out of the water on the upwind leg rather than trying to jam it in there before the mark's on that downwind leg.
Yeah, I agree, and they're really finessed at accelerating. It's just like they have, you know, a little bit of extra power. They're a little bit slippier. They just seem to be able to get the boat going a little bit quicker. And what could have been a 30-second loss was just a few seconds.
I was going to say, every signal in, see if the trap toggle's working. Yeah. See if the trap's working.
Yep. Good angle there, buddy. Good. Yep, it's just the knob disappeared off it. Yep.
You heard Peter Burling there, Nathan, say, see if the trap toggle's working. That almost gives you the feeling that Peter Burling is controlling the traveling.
Yeah, it's unusual for a helmsman of these boats to be asking so much about Traveller and main sheet. And, you know, Glenn Ashby, that's that little head down to leeward there. You can just see him. Oh, you can't see him right now, but he's hiding down there. He's the trimmer on board, but I'm not sure how he could really be trimming the mainsail from to leeward. I think that there must be some buttons and gadgets on the wheel here.
So his right hand, that's not a, what do you think that is right there?
I honestly don't know. There's so many buttons.
I think he's holding on for dear life. I'm going to go out on a limb.
All right, well, maybe we'll get to ask him at some point over the next couple of months. What do you do with your right hand?
My pitch.
Lost, maybe that's one to get, I don't know. But
what's that?
I wonder whether we've lost that one. My numbers went a bit funny for a second.
Yeah, we've only
the sound at the moment coming off INEOS Team UK. Not
okay, good race here.
Good chat going on board that boat. They sound really positive, you know, much more positive than yesterday. Yes, they're copping a bit of a beating in terms of the result today, but I don't think any of them will be seeing that. They'll be going, we're going quick, we're sailing well, and they're polished.
Emirates Team New Zealand. How will they attack this final gate? The top gate for the last time, end of leg number 5 of 6.
Nice riding.
They had a 40-second lead at the bottom gate.
3, 2, 1, away you go.
And away they go around. Nice and clear too. Nice and clear of that right-hand marker.
Yeah, missed the mark.
20 seconds into
and now we'll see how far ahead they are of INEOS Team UK.
Having to carry on here.
I think they've stretched out a little bit on this leg, and that could be for a variety of reasons. Could be wind shifts. When you're behind, you take some chances sometimes, and those chances often don't work out. But I think Nathan's exactly right. These guys are going to be looking at the positives out of this race rather than the negative actually not getting a point.
And at the end of the day, their focus is really on January, isn't it? When the Challenger Series begins there and they want to get through all the rounds and not get eliminated. So for them, this is a huge step in their journey to what's going to happen next year.
Yours? Yep.
INEOS Team UK on course for the top gate for the last time.
Okay. Holding high here, please.
And the gap will
coming away.
Will have strengthened out. Yes, it's well over a minute now. It was 40 seconds at the bottom gate. It'll now be when the clock stops. At about 1 minute and 15 behind Emirates Team New Zealand. But you're so right, Nathan. It is a huge win. Getting through this 4-day regatta and knowing you've got weeks to get ready for that January 15 start of the Prada Cup. Big gains, huge gains.
Yeah, it's a huge win, and now obviously we can see they're not quite as fast as Emirates Team New Zealand, so the next step now that they've got a functioning boat is incremental gains, just small gains. How can we go a little faster? How can we go a little higher? How can we improve our maneuvers a little bit? But man, if you're an INEOS supporter right now, you must be breathing a sigh of relief and going, okay, we've got a boat. We've got something we can work with here. Let's just see how far we can go and how much of a gap we can close.
Spectator fleet sitting on the boundary, getting one of the best views you could ever get if you love your yachting, being on the water and watching these 75-foot flying monohulls do the job, do the business. And right now, that's Emirates Team New Zealand, a 1 minute and 15-second lead on INEOS Team UK, heading towards the finish in race 6 of 8 in the Prada America's Cup World Series.
That's it, right? Yeah.
They even lost track of I always wonder how they keep track of how many times they go around. You heard Burling just say, this is it, right? It's like,
Pretty sure, right? We've been down here twice already. Yeah.
Yep. See, they're talking about it. Have we? Is this the right? Is this it?
Yes, this is it. The finish of race number 6, and it will be a comfortable win to Emirates Team New Zealand, the defender in this 36th America's Cup.
Hold on, boys.
Standing by attack. 3, 2, 1. Turn. Ready.
So, despite making a couple of mistakes that could have cost them a race, almost hitting the mark at the top gate, first leg, and then dumping on that bad jibe before the bottom gate.
Well, don't forget a kind of a crummy pre-start. You know, they really, their timing was off again, and this is a real theme, Nathan. These boats are having a really hard time getting out of the water, getting on the foils, going fast, and figuring out a timing run to get into the box on time for the pre-start.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen teams making errors entering, and I think that's where they've really got to sharpen up. It's not one particular team. It's every team has just got to get used to getting the boat in the right spot, getting it on the foil, and coming in on time. And you know, we can sit here and say, you know, they're all making these errors, but I don't think it's as easy as we're giving them credit. I think a little bit of prep, you know, they'll get their systems going eventually. I know in Bermuda we spent a lot of time just in that final 5 minutes before the start, putting the boat in the right place for a good entry.
This is not yet the match. This is not yet the Prada Cup. This is the America's Cup World Series, but it is still a developmental phase. INEOS Team UK finally get across the finish line in race 6 of the Prada America's Cup World Series. 1 minute and 32 seconds behind Emirates Team New Zealand. But forget about the number. Considering what happened in the last 24 hours, that's a win for Britannia.
No question about it. And you see, they're even still practicing. They're not stopping here right now. They went around the race course or that lured gate as if it was a mark of the course, and they're just trying to get data. And these poor guys. Ben, give them a break for crying out loud. And remember, everybody, this is the grinders control everything above the water line and batteries control below.
Result of race 6, Emirates Team New Zealand defeat INEOS Team UK. Emirates Team New Zealand picking up win number 2 with a 1 minute and 32 second win against the British.
Well, here we go. We were just talking about this pre-start. Again, these really hard pre-starts to call because they are super unorthodox. A bit of a dial down, and I personally think that was kind of a mistake. If INEOS had just hardened up and tried to get to the line and cross on starboard tack, they could have been several boat lengths ahead. But that aggressive, maybe a little bit out of frustration move got them even slightly behind. And then almost the mark crunch of the century. Big fiberglass Prada marks and the communications was not perfect. Glenn Ashby saying, "What? Listen to your comms." Sorry, says Peter Burling. Well,
and here you can see they've got quite a nice, comfortable lead as they come down to the bottom marks. Just slowly stretching away, and this was the real moment when they come into this jibe and look at the back. The rudder lets go, that big spray there. Whole boat jumps out of the water, crashes down. Quick reactions there, letting all the sails out, just trying to stop it tipping over. But you can see here, big heel, big splat, and then look at the clue of the main there. Big ease. Otherwise, that boat was tipping over.
Good call. That's a good call.
And there's a nice smooth rounding to finish off the race.
The simple acknowledgement. Well done, boys, from helmsman Peter Burling. And it was well done. 1 minute 32, considering what they put on show on the water today on course C, which is a magnificent viewing platform. Plenty of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli fans out there today. They're up next. They'll have another crack at American Magic. And it's a nice cool day today, not as hot out there today. Well, the racing was hot, I've got to say, because these first two races have thrown up plenty to talk about.
Absolutely brilliant out there today. And here's the key moment in my eyes where Ben Ainsley bears off down at Team New Zealand. Rather, he could have possibly just hardened up and started the race on starboard tack, but that took him completely out of phase, and he had to actually tack for the starting line. So it's great to be an armchair sailor here, Nathan, but I think that aggressive move actually cost him in the end.
Well, in these pre-starts, you're either going to try and draw the penalty, and if you miss the penalty, then you lose control. He had control of that start, and in that aggressive nature, trying to draw the penalty, he just gave it away.
On board now, Emirates Team New Zealand helmsman Peter Burling. Peter, plenty to talk about. What happened to that top mark?
Yeah, no, the top mark, I definitely got it a little wrong. Went a little bit too close, so made our life a little bit hard. But yeah, no, I think it was pretty interesting at the start as well. We kind of had a few issues there. So yeah, but no, good race on the whole. We're happy just to get round. Obviously pretty shifty, tricky conditions here, so it was pretty fun one to get under the belt.
Yeah, Pete, Nathan Outteridge here. I think you had everyone's hearts in their mouths with that top mark. Lucky Glennie was there to talk you through it. Talk us a little bit about the bottom mark. You were approaching it, you did the double jibe down there, and it looked like you lost the rudders. What happened? How hard is that? You know, is that a common thing that happens on these boats?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's massively common. You know, we just made a bit of a mistake and probably made our life a bit hard for ourselves. It's kind of a bit tricky in this race course because there's not much breeze at the bottom and then plenty up top. So, yeah, definitely not our most polished performance, but we're happy to walk away with the win.
Appreciate the time, Peter. We'll see you out of the water a little bit later.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Now let's go on board INEOS Team UK Britannia. They'd be pretty happy with that. Ben Ainsley, how encouraging was that performance today after what's been going on in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, well, look, it was much better than yesterday. We were able to get around the course. Everything was working as it should, and the guys did a really good job. Pretty full-on pre-start with such a tight pre-start box and the start line being offset as it was. And we didn't think we'd have that many dial-ups in AC75s, and that was our first one. So that was a pretty intense moment. And then we had a good race. Obviously, a click off the pace with the Kiwis, which is where we expected to be at the moment. Unfortunately, we want to be quicker, but just to click off those guys. But other than that, it was a solid race, and the guys did a really good job.
Hey, Ben, Kenny Reed here. Listen, take us through your mindset when you know you're coming at somebody going 40 knots and you're going 40 knots. Take us through the mindset of making the decision to dial down and aim straight at them, because for most people at home, I think it sounds a little crazy.
Yeah, well, you know, we know they're in a quicker boat. Thanks, Ben. We know they're in a quicker boat at the moment, So we're going to just sort of make something happen. Yeah, my most important thing, like you say, Ken, is you don't want to be crashing at that speed. So try and push it as hard as you possibly can without, you know, overstepping the mark.
Did you guys think that could have
got to the limit?
Did you think that could have been? Did you actually push your button for a foul or no?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I thought it was a foul. Yeah, but obviously Richard, the umpire, disagreed. But yeah, I thought it was certainly pretty close. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear what they think, whether they even considered it.
Hey, Ben, Nathan Atteridge here. Nice job in the race. You know, the boat looks like it's being sailed much smoother. You must be happy to have the control systems working for you. Talk us a little bit through about what the process will be now between now and January and the gains that you hope to make from the boat.
Yeah, hi, Nate. Well, yeah, I mean, we obviously got to work on our speed, our straight line speed and our manoeuvres, and also down the range as well, particularly in the sort of sub-10 knot stuff. So we've got quite a few upgrades coming onto the boat after this regatta, and really that time up until the 15th of Jan will be flat out trying to make the most of those, work on the setup of the boat, work up on our technique and what we've learned from this event, watching some of these other guys getting around the course.
Ben, thanks for your time. Big raps to you. Also, big raps too to your shore crew.
Yeah, they've done a great job getting us out here. Thanks, guys.
So a smile off Ben Ainsley after that race. Yes, a 1 minute and 32 second beating at the hands of Emirates Team New Zealand, but you know what? Body language says a lot. We talked about body language yesterday and how the shoulders were slumped, but man, oh man, he looks a different cat today.
I think the telling moment was he was given a water bottle and he didn't throw it back at the person today, you know, so he took it and said thank you.
Well, Stephen and Kenny, you know, like the time was 1 minute 30 between them and Emirates Team New Zealand. Yesterday, Team New Zealand beat Rossa by over 3 minutes. So it's game on. It's fantastic, and they've got to be happy. And you know, we're going to see them go at it again tomorrow.
Got to be one of my favourite phrases. It's game on, and we're not even at the Prada Cup or the America's Cup. It's only day 2 of the Prada America's Cup World Series. Rossa Prada Pirelli fans singing, dancing to whatever they want. But this America's Cup, you know, has shattered dreams and created heroes. Some have spent a lifetime pursuing the old mug. Others, like Peter Burling, are an exclusive club, winning on debut.
The America's Cup's an incredibly special thing. You know, I think it's a young fella growing up in New Zealand, you know, because probably too young to really remember the 95 Cup, but definitely remember in 2000, when I started out sailing.
Team New Zealand complete the first successful defence of the America's Cup outside America. The America's Cup is still New Zealand's Cup.
Just seeing the whole country get behind, a sporting event where New Zealand's really taking on the world was something that's pretty special, and I think always something that I really wanted to be involved with as a young sailor growing up. So to have the opportunity I do now to be able to represent New Zealand at the highest level of our sport, and really push the bounds in terms of technology is something that's incredibly exciting. These boats are pretty incredible. I think every day you go out, you still kick yourself a little bit just to see how quick they actually are going. They're really pushing the bounds in terms of the speed and manoeuvrability, and also doing a lot of things at low speed that we probably thought they'd be worse at. I was obviously involved early days with both the Challenger record and ourselves, trying to come up with concepts, and it's something that we kind of came up with this mono hull, and we really wanted it to be high performance. So we've kind of ended up in a really good place, I feel. The boats are pretty quick. I think the thing for me that I think will blow a lot of people away, especially is how quick they go upwind. Relate it back to on land, it's pretty staggering. The peak speeds, miles off 100k an hour. So it's you know, something that, you know, if you're driving down your motorway at 100k an hour with your head out the window, you get a pretty good feel for the amount of air, you know, coming over these boats, and yeah, always incredible to think a boat can be going that quick. There's definitely some G-forces in the corner. You know, it's something that I think I'm always lucky because I'm generally the one driving the boat, so you kind of know where the G-forces are going to come from. So you're always generally pretty braced for them, but you know, definitely if you're a passenger or grinding, you know, it's pretty hard to do your job sometimes through the G-forces. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a favourite, you know, but at the end of the day, you've got to go out there and put down a good performance and, you know, actually win the thing. You know, it's something, you've done a lot of events in the 49er where you've been favourite, but you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything. You know, you've got to go put your best foot forward and, you know, perform on the day. So, you know, that's what all our hard work here is about doing. Yeah, all that's saying is that, you know, only one person gets to win the America's Cup, and that's what we're trying to do.
A key to remember, there is no second in the America's Cup, but there is a place to be if you want to watch close up. It's on the water of the Waitemata Harbour. You know, they say the America's Cup is a calling that becomes a way of life. With Luna Rossa set to race next, this will be Max Serena's 7th campaign, and he's the first to admit he's addicted.
The first race of America's Cup 2000. They're going to be right on the button. Prada, magnificent, right on the button at the Pennine. Brilliant time on distance by the Italians. Super start by Prada.
Well, it is an obsession because you only live for that during the campaign. There is no time left for family, friend, or your personal life. You give everything to the cup, and that is the reason why you get addicted. I mean, this is my 7th campaign, and at the end of each campaign, I'm always saying, why? And keep doing that. And at the end is, we just miss the cup when you walk away. So it takes everything from you, and you give everything you have to the campaign, to the team you're working with. So yeah, it's an obsession at the end because you forgot everything else. And it doesn't happen often. It's not like the World Cup or a national championship or a world title in Formula One. Every year, you know, you get an opportunity, to do it. Here, you don't know, because every time is different. Every time you could sail with a different boat, you could work with a different team, so it's always something new. The nice thing of the America's Cup, you really push the limit on everything. It's not just sailing. The most exciting part is probably the research, the design, the idea, thinking outside of the box. You need to build and design a perfect machine, and you know there is other competitors that are trying to beat you and to do something even better than you. So that is, I think, is the challenge which I like the most. I mean, I won the Cup twice. I did 7 campaigns. The only thing I'm missing is to win the Cup with an Italian team and with Luna Rossa. And I will never thank enough Mr. Bertelli and Luna Rossa for the opportunity they gave me.
Luna Rossa!
It will be a closed loop, you close a circle. At the moment, I'm nothing. I won with another team, which is great, an amazing experience, both time with Team New Zealand, with Oracle, but to be real and to be a real win, I want to win with Luna Rossa. If I'm winning the Cup, there is a chance it's going to be my last campaign. Not because I get rich, because it's not going to happen. I'm not that good on that. But I think I achieve everything. So I will probably looking for other challenges.
It is a beautiful Friday, the 18th of December 2020 in Auckland, New Zealand, and it's day 2 of the Prada America's Cup World Series, and there you have the Waitemata Harbour, part of the Hauraki Gulf. To the left of your screen, you can see the spectator fleet, which are lining up around Course C, which will be the 2nd time it's used, but it's been set up differently, and we have seen some magnificent racing already today. Coming up, American Magic will face Rossa, Prada Pirelli. American Magic being beaten for the first time by 12 seconds. But for 170 years, the America's Cup has provided intrigue, drama, and controversy. This edition will be no different, and the AC75 is literally Formula One on water. And according to Terry Hutchinson, it's a real crowd pleaser. Oh, yeah.
The unique aspect of the AC75 is whether you're out there with another boat or not, every day is filled with pressure. You go off the dock in 21, 22 knots of breeze and you hoist the main, the switch gets turned on pretty quickly. And it will expose weaknesses all the way through the team. I would say 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, steering the boat would have been a higher priority. Right now, the priority is winning. And we're incredibly fortunate, I think, to have Dean steering the boat. He is a good competitor. He's a great competitor. And that's exactly what we need. He has match experience in managing a monohull of this size. He has experience across 2 cycles of high-performance foiling catamarans. And so he's seen, really, the full evolution of the Cup to this point. We had a sail in the other day where we're ripping along in the high 40s, and he gave me a little, he was like, come on. And I was like, we're good. You know, we're good here. And that's out of a respect for what can go wrong, too. I mean, the boat's got massive potential. You know, like most things, you learn a lot through those mistakes. And yeah, I'm happy I don't have his job, because the level of responsibility and the level of understanding that he has of the boat and the equipment is well beyond my capability, with having to do a couple different jobs. And so I think at the end of the day, the best part of it is in front of us. The boat's incredible. The boat is an engineering marvel. And it's great to experience something that's so different and so technologically advanced, and the sheer speed of the boat it's just phenomenal. There's a select group of sailors that have the capabilities to race one of these boats properly. And you completely recognize that the Defender and Rossa and Team INEOS, I mean, these are good teams. And so on the day, we're going to have our act together. If it was our first rodeo, you'd be a little bit more nervous, but it's not. And so you trust in the guys that you're standing next to, and the voices that you hear in the earpiece to get it more right than wrong. For me personally, it's been a 22-year career in chasing it, and having gone through the trials and tribulations of all of that competition and gain a better understanding and what it takes to be successful. Still haven't reached that pinnacle yet, and so here we sit with an incredible opportunity, and all we have to do is make sure that we leave nothing on the table. The team is only as strong as the weakest individual. You know, this experience is working towards identifying areas that we're weak and turning those into strengths. So as long as we win, I'm going to sleep pretty darn well at night.
A second bite at the cherry on day 2 as Rossa, Prada Pirelli, the twin helm against Dean Barker and American Magic. American Magic being beaten by 12 seconds earlier today in race number 5. And that was a race full of intrigue at it. That boat right there, American Magic, almost tipping over with a little bit of a foil issue. And Kenny Red, what can we expect in this one?
Well, it's a simple analogy is one mistake loses when you have 2 pretty equal boats, and we saw it exactly that point in the first race, and let's see how it goes in the second race. But it's getting exciting out here, Nathan.
Yeah, it's shaping up for another close race. Shirley, down on the water, these 2 teams have been at it already today. What can we expect from them in this coming race?
Nathan, a slightly different different race course this time. The breeze has gone left and they've made the course smaller with more laps. So there's 8 legs, way more manoeuvres, and we've seen what can happen when you've got a lot of manoeuvres to do.
Awesome, thank you, Shirley. Fantastic insight from on the water.
Well, that's the one thing you want to hear, right? 8 legs, bit of wind, more racing, more drama, and we certainly had plenty of that when you think back to the first race. American Magic almost fell over.
Angle's okay.
Well, they did actually fall over. Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, well, they got a penalty, and port entry for American Magic in race 7 of this America's Cup World Series. They're allowed in at 2 minutes and seconds here. They come in quite nicely, but whoa!
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Here, I was just about to say we might actually have good timing. Prada just came in 3 seconds early to my eye, and we'll have to see what Richard Slater has to say.
I can see there in the background a red light flashing on Luna Rossa already, so penalty already to Luna Rossa.
Have you got it? Stand by turning up. JK. Copy.
This is the umpires. Italy penalty early entry. Second incident, green flag, no penalty.
Okay, there you have it. Penalty to Luna Rossa for entering the starting box too early, and currently both boats are now sailing well off to the left-hand side of this course.
Vulnerable spot. This is a real match-facing situation right now. If Luna Rossa can stay upwind, they can actually pin American Magic upwind.
So they have a penalty, but they're now trying to gain control. You can see them chasing him upwind here.
There we go.
Good course.
Dean's in a bit of a tough spot here. This is all about maneuvering and putting yourself in the right position to be the lured boat, prevent them from jibing. But like you said, you can try to go after him and get a penalty.
He's trying to get the offset right now. He's trying to offset his penalty so he can actually win this start. Otherwise, he's just going to have to let Dean sail away here. So plenty of action coming up here, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, protest here. What's the boundary?
He might have just done it.
Turning here, turning.
He might have just done it.
Well, he's off the foil though, so you might have offset the penalty, but if he's not foiling...
Turn up better.
There you go. Penalty. They offset the penalty. Now can he get back up on the foil? And he's vulnerable at a windward leeward again at a barge at the weather end.
Dean's got him here on toast.
Take him up here, taking him up. Working it up, working up. Hey!
No protest here. Too close.
We're racing, right? Gun down.
Dream, ragazzi, dream. Go, boys, go.
This is the
Start begins, but what a start
penalty
for race 7.
Italy, penalty Italy, penalty clear.
Okay, press a little bit, press a little bit.
So Stephen, what just happened there is in that last loop around, because Italy came off their foils, Dean was able to jibe around, get to be lured boat, and they determined, and we'll talk to Richard Slater here in a minute, and they determined that the giveaway boat, which was this boat, actually fouled the other boat. So it's really, you know, it was full of action. That was match racing.
Okay, let's find the pace here.
He comes back, we hit him straight away. Probably.
They're on us. They're quite close. Easy, easy. 21 can't. Can't.
Working it up here. Nice there.
Okay, happy to come up one. Okay, pressure is on. Still good for me.
So this is the voice coming off of American Magic here right now. Obviously controlling situation. And we'll see a couple replays here from the start, Nathan. I know we keep beating this drum, but the common theme is how hard it is to do your timing. American Magic in right on time. Italy in 3 seconds early. They can't come into the box from that starboard side until the 2-minute mark. So they actually pretty far off. When 3 seconds means about 20 boat lengths. Here's a windward leeward. That's to clear the penalty. Sure enough, they give American Magic a foul there, but they come off the foils. Italy comes off the foils, and they get back right at them again.
Yeah, and in coming off the foils, they lose complete control. So, you know, it's a fine line between trying to draw the penalty or offset the penalty and still having the boat on the foils. You see how long it takes these boats to get up and going again. and now already up this beat. Luna Rossa are trying to get out of phase. They're trying to find a way back into the race. And American Magic, up until this point, we're keeping tabs on them. Looks like they're extending out further to the left this time, allowing the split.
Just briefly, Nathan, you talked about coming out of phase. For those that don't understand what out of phase and in phase is, just quickly what out of phase is.
Well, so in phase is when boats are on the same tack. Lead boat, controlling boat behind, always on the same tack. Out of phase is what we see on the screen here right now. One boat on port, one boat on starboard, getting out to the boundaries, really getting a lot of leverage. If you're in front, this is nervous times. You've let them go over to the other side. Maybe there's a wind shift coming. They could lose the lead here already, whereas if you're in phase, really hard to get a pass.
In phase two, the one would suspect the one boat is in control, one isn't.
Generally, the lead boat is in control, and the boat behind is always trying to just find ways past. And if you let them split, you're just giving them that opportunity.
Up to the top gate for the first time. Now remember, this is 8 legs. 8 legs this time around. The first 2 races were 6 legs, but this will be 8 legs, and it's an American Magic. After a rough and tumble start, they will...
And a port starboard coming here right now, so they have to turn slowly because Prada is on starboard tack, coming back upwind.
And away they go. American Magic are on their downward leg, and Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Round the mark.
Right.
Number 2 of 8, they hit on that downward leg.
1, very high.
1, wood down.
Yeah, just as Luna Rossa goes round the top mark there, American Magic jibe in the background. Again, keeping in phase, they've extended off to the boundary, trying to stay between the competition and the mark. Mind you, wasn't much further they could have gone before they hit that boundary, and shows you how fast these boats are going. Those boundaries aren't that far away from the top marks, and Luna Rossa here rolling into a jibe.
Being pretty strong, yeah, copy.
Nice looking jibe there, staying on the foils the whole way through.
Yeah, see where we are. You think about matching him over
Healthy
here,
lead for American Magic, just under 370 meters on Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. In the first downward leg of 8 in this race. We'll have a lot to talk about. Both these teams now on 2 wins apiece. Remember, at the end of all of this, on 3 days, seedings 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Who wants to spend the box seat?
The other way, but it's sort of increasing all the time.
Bias gets bigger. Tell me.
Really nice boat here. Nice boat for the set up. Down a click.
So a lot of the chat on board's about, as they approach the bottom mark, using the software to help them pick the ley lines as they come down here, trying to work out which bottom gate mark is going to be more favoured, and also looking behind at times to see the pressure, which side is better, what side of the course has more breeze. Shirley, can you see a difference in pressure from one side to the other out there?
Bias gets bigger again.
Okay, standing by here.
Well, Nathan, as I said, the breeze went left, so it's coming around the left-hand so to me it always looks good on that side. We're right beside American Magic, and they just seem to be extending all the time. When they're off and running, they're just a click faster. They're looking good.
Just enough time for a complete spot.
Happy to set up.
So it looks like here they'll be approaching the bottom gate. 1 more jibe to come. They're going to do the right-hand turn as they look at it, going out to that side that Shirley described to us. The left-hand side, just off North Head, seems to have more pressure with this left-hand shift.
American Magic sitting at around 35, 30. Well, they're jibing, so speed's going to drop off pretty quickly. And you can see on the right-hand side, Italians doing around 33 knots. But we know how quick these boats can fly. 49.1 yesterday by Emirates Team New Zealand as American Magic.
Go boys, big push. Turning up in 10.
2 quick jibes there at the last second certainly got him back in the game.
4, 3, 2.
American Magic through the bottom gate. It's just so pretty to watch. I don't know what it is about that shot looking back at the bow of these boats, but I've got to say it is just pretty to watch.
Nice angle here. 25 to boundary.
And violent at the same time.
They've had their violence today when they tipped that boat on its side. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli now through the bottom gate and following in American Magic's wake.
Yeah, got.
20 seconds the gap. 20 seconds, the difference.
There's that maneuver that Emirates Team New Zealand failed to pull off yesterday, that loop around the leeward gate and roll right into attack. Like Nathan was saying before, just trying to immediately create that split. They actually pulled it off pretty nicely there, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a really nice bottom arc rounding, and I think we can underestimate how difficult that is to do on these boats. You've got to deal with the round up, the skid of the boat, the inertia of the boat wanting to go straight as you're turning it. Meanwhile, you've got to get the foil down and get some grip and turn around. And all of a sudden, they're still in phase. American Magic did a great job here of tacking to keep control, but Luna Rossa have got their nose forward a little bit. Any right-hand shift that comes now, any bit of pressure on that right-hand side, they'll be able to tack, maybe just close the gap up a little bit and just keep it close. Remember, 4 laps, long way to go still.
Pensive faces at the America's Cup Village, the fans of Luna Rossa. They picked up the win today against American Magic in race number 5 by 12 seconds. And that was one crazy race.
It's still, you know, early days here, right? But it still amazes me how you can take chunks out of a lead or a deficit in such a short period of time. That was just one really well done maneuver that halved the distance in a heartbeat. That was really well done.
Well, on that downwind leg, the American Magic were something close to 400 meters ahead. Now look, it's down to 115 at this particular point on the course as we head up on leg number 3. So numbers tell the story in this one.
Yeah.
Well, when the boats are going so fast, all you've got to be is not at top speed for a brief period of time, and that meters just shrinks very, very quickly. If you're doing over 30 knots upwind and someone has a bad tack and sits in the 20s for just 5 seconds too long, they come at you quickly.
Mish coming up.
By tack. Yeah. I think we go back with them this time.
A little further, a little further. Got to make sure we lay. Yeah, but
next one. Match with them from here.
We're hearing on both boats the Australian accent of Jimmy Spithill and the Kiwi accent of Mr. Barker.
Was that your attempt at an Australian accent?
No, I was so close to saying the similar accent, but I know I'd get in so much trouble if I actually said that.
Hey, be honest, you tried it.
It's interesting here, guys, just looking up the course, Luna Rossa were trying to go far enough that they could do it in one more tack from here. They're hoping that they can get to the ley line before the boundary. We all know, well, we know right now in this position, American Magic are easily going to do it in one, but if Luna Rossa have to tack again, which you see there on picture now, they have to tack again. There you go, Dean's going to attack him. He could have either gone all the way to ley line, or he could have just got back in phase, and he's not giving Luna Rossa a chance to get by him, is he?
Going to lay this time.
So we're seeing a trend here. When Dean Barker gets ahead, he likes to tack on the other guy. He likes to keep it a match race, keep it close and keep it a match race.
2, it's over. 1, point down.
Stand by, 2, 1.
I will.
It's good for us. Makes it an interesting race. A lot of times it gives you a heart attack as a fan.
Both boats approaching the top gate at the end of leg number 3, and it will be American Magic rounding first. And trailing them will be Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Keep your eye on the bottom right of your screen. Let's see what the difference was. It was 20 seconds at the last mark. Have they cut into that lead?
Now. Clear. Go, go,
yes,
go.
They have. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with that twin helping of Francesco Bruni and Jimmy Spittle have cut it in half.
To me, it looked like that gain came early on in the beat. You know, that really nice bottom mark rounding, and then not much really happened up the beat. Both boats in phase the whole way. Luna Rossa happy to keep it close, knowing they're making small gains. Dean Barker really trying to keep control of this race. It's a boat speed race right now, this whole downwind.
Any matches?
Okay, my rudder and my trav. Trimming up, boys, go.
It's going to be a long race. There's a lot of legs here. We're not even halfway through the race right now. Remember, it's 4 laps around, 8 legs on this one. plenty of chance of problems and errors and little blemishes that will cost you in a big way.
So, Ken, as we approach the bottom mark, you feel the boat behind right now. What are your opportunities to get back into this one?
Well, you got to. I think you got to start looking for a split here at some stage. You know, Dean likes to come in tight, so that means you start your split setup about halfway down the run, right? Like, how early would you be setting up for a 2 and in versus somebody else just doing a 1 and in? You have to wait for them to commit to 1 and in before you do your 2 jobs?
Right turn, and then we JK again, get the bow forward.
It's a real tough one. You're using race software to know, like you can see here, Dean Barker and American Magic are almost laying in that bottom mark. If they can lay in, they'll probably take the easy option, the right-hand turn, no more manoeuvres, and then Luna Rossa will have to take the left mark. But if they don't lay, you know, you can hear them. We'll just listen to what they're talking about. I think they'll tell the whole story for us here.
Surely there's a long starboard drive here. Has there been a pretty big left-hand shift, wind shift out on the race course?
Yeah, it's really lefty. It's got cloudy and slightly rainy, and more to the left. So they're nearly. I mean, I'd say they're pretty much laying here, both of them.
Feels like we just do the same again. Match out of the bottom right. Yep. We just need it up there a little bit.
American Magic and then Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli team. Race number 7 of the America's Cup World Series on day number 2, and it will be American Magic leading the Italians into the bottom gate halfway through this race. That's the completion of leg number 4.
They're going to go left here. They're going to try to do a split. That JK is a 2-board down maneuver, and I think they're going to try to turn to the left. That's... Nope, they're going to actually go here, and then they might roll into attack.
Keep turning here, keep turning. Here we go.
14 seconds the margin. It was 10 seconds at the top gate. So Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli has lost a smidgen of time.
And here we have the same setup as what we had the lap before.
That is a cool move they do right there. You know, both boards down. It's almost like you know, sticking another wheel on your tricycle. You know, so you're just making the whole thing really stable.
One thing I noticed there, out of the exit of the bottom mark, if you looked at the tracks, American Magic are exiting really low out of the tack, lower angle, trying to get up to speed quite quickly. Looks like Luna Rossa are exiting at a higher angle and just patient and just letting the speed come slowly. So if we get an attacking duel here, maybe we're going to find out what type of tack, what style of tacking is going to be better for the long run up the course.
Luna Rossa is not slow. You don't stick in this tight, you know, you don't stay this close if you're off the pace. These are 2 pretty darn even boats right now, and I'd say from a day-to-day basis, that's a gain to Luna Rossa. I didn't feel like they were quite on pace coming into today, and I think they've made a bit of a statement here.
Board down in 3, 2, 1, board down. And turning.
Dean Barker and Terry Hutchinson not giving him any opportunities to get back into this, are they?
Terry thinks he's sailing his TP52 out there right now, just whacking on the poor guy.
Hey, if it works, just keep doing it.
He's made a career out of it working, so we'll give it to him. They love keeping it close, though, don't they? From a tactical standpoint. There he goes. He's going right back again.
Pressure coming.
Anytime.
Easy here. Gun. Good.
Happy, everybody? Yep, anytime. 2, 1, board down. And turn it. Yep, my wheel.
This is as big a split as Luna Rossa might see for a while, because it's almost like they had a little bit of a conversation. In that brief conversation, it's amazing how far apart the boats can actually get.
Probably ran an extra 300 meters, didn't they? And just in that, are you ready, Goody? Yep, no, I'm ready. Okay, now we'll tack. That's 150 meters in the space of 10 seconds.
Amazing.
Nice hit.
Okay, my runner and my Trav.
Rossi.
Crossing by 4 or 5.
Little gain to him then, maybe.
Maybe.
Whether we hit him here or go to left gate lay. He's got big right labour.
For everybody at home, you non-sailors, when Dean Barker says, "Do we hit him here?" This is not physical. This is taking the wind of the other boat.
Standing by.
The gap has certainly come down from the 115 it was. Down under 100 meters now. And American Magic.
It's an unusual spot to tack. He didn't hit him. He didn't go right in front. He went past. And now he's to windward it on starboard. But when Luna Rossa come back, I reckon they're going to be touch and go out of this one. This is going to be a really close exit of these two tacks.
So real tactical battle on leg 5 as they both head towards that
Right gate us.
top gate.
I will.
And I wonder if that tacker is going to give Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli to slice that gap even more. Leg number 5 of 8, top gate. But it's still American Magic weaving their magic on the Waitemata Harbour this afternoon against Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. And that gap sliced. 5 seconds. There's 14 at the bottom, now it's 5.
Upwind each time, there's been gains to the Luna Rossa boat. Downwind each time, there's been gains to American Magic. That is becoming a reasonably common theme, that speed downwind of the Americans.
Shirley, on the water, can you see much in the weather patterns changing? We see Luna Rossa here splitting the course, jibing much early. Do you think there's any chance they'll lay the bottom mark from there?
Oh, possibly. I could do with a computer, Nathan, to tell you that. But it's very long on this drive. Just taking up what Kenny was saying. I mean, I feel with Prada, they tack really well. There's not people crossing the boat, and the more maneuvers, the more tack. That move they called JK that they did right at the bottom gate. They executed that so well, and I just wonder if that's one of the massive positives with having two helmsmen. That, you know, you're not waiting for people to cross over and to get going again. And to me, they look really smooth in their upwind maneuvers, especially.
Yeah, so it's going to be tilting right at the moment.
And that's why
still okay pressure off here, right?
That's a really smart call too. When you think about if you make one mistake, as Lathan was saying, as they're approaching that top gate, about, you know, losing 150 meters on breathing, talking, okay, I'm going to go across, whereas both Jimmy Spittle and Francesco Bruno going, okay, we know what to do, just steer it and keep going, and away we go. And Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli fans have plenty at the Viaduct America's Cup Village, which is a great place to be watching this, but you got the best view in the house where you are right now. Looking at the rear of Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. I know I'm supposed to go to the stern, but you know, it's a rear as well, man.
Careful, careful. Hey, it's happening again, downwind. I don't know if American Magic has lost any ground in any of the downwind legs since we started this event.
Common theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
One boat looks quicker upwind, one boat looks quicker downwind.
Prada mark.
It's not much in it, but man, if American Magic can lay in here and not have to do another jibe, that's going to be 1 jibe versus 3 on this run, and that's definitely going to be a big game.
And forcing the other, and they're going to be able to attack earlier and maybe stay a little bit more in phase at this bottom mark at the same time.
Definitely softer here.
American Magic had a 14-second lead at that top gate. They're now heading towards the bottom gate.
Copy, turning up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
And around go American Magic. Completion of leg 6. 1 more upward leg, 1 more downward leg. What's the gap? It was 5 seconds at the top, just 5 seconds, but that downward leg has produced a huge gain.
3,
How big is the gain, though?
A little lighter here. Keep trimming.
Dai ragazzi, dai, trim, big trim, boys.
Yeah, mine.
Man, it's close to almost being a disaster. Every one of those. Here we go, same setup. This is 3 legs in a row.
Okay, my trap.
Are you sure that we're just not on rewind here? Is it? I mean, just the same setup for all 3 of these lured gates.
Business where you say it, but if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Well, Prada's getting close at the top, but they better have one more trick up their sleeves, or they ain't getting by. I'll tell you that.
Well, based on the fact that we believe that the American Magic boat is faster downwind, Rossa don't just need to get close. They need to get past them up here and then go elbows out on the downwind to stop them getting by. But, you know, those extra 2 jibes they did on that last downwind definitely, you know, they're now 220 meters behind. Last upwind, they were 140. I guess they figured we're not passing them by following them. We need to try something here, and gave away a bit of distance.
We got a boat race, though, fellas. I mean, that's the beauty of this here right now. There was whenever you have a brand new class, there's doubts. You know what? You know, you have a couple runaway races, and you know it's easy to get down on the whole situation. We've had a bunch of boat races today. We've had incredible pre-start maneuvering, and here we are, people tacking on each other left and right out here, like it was, you know, like I said, like it was a normal race.
Well, for those doubters that didn't think these AC 75 40 monohulls were yachts and they were more, you know, airplanes, we're seeing why they are yachts, and we're seeing good old school racing, as you like to call them.
Old school. You calling me old? Is that what you just did? You didn't call me a veteran, so I'm going to give you that.
I said old school racing. You talking about good old match racing? I'm just going good old school match racing.
You're on. 3, 2, 1.
Lead 215 meters USA. American Magic over Rossa, Prada Pirelli. The tactics continue on this final upwind leg towards the top gate. The first race we've had with 8 legs involved. Just means more racing for you to watch and enjoy and soak up and get every angle possible that we provide for you.
That angle really shows the difference in the hull shapes, doesn't it? The different design approaches they've taken to these boats, and how American Magic look really narrow in the transom, and Rossa look probably more like a typical regular boat.
And I was looking at the mast bend as well. It looked like American Magic sails with quite a bit more mast bend than Rossa, which I've noticed sails really straight on their rig.
Well, if you notice really closely, if you've got an eye for attention to detail, they don't have any runners on Rossa. They've actually taken them completely off the boat. The runners are the backstays that help bend the mast. So,
and you can really see a kink at the head of the jib every single time when they're going upwind, so it's very clear.
The forestay sag from that. So I know we're going a little bit technical right now, but we'll be talking about this as the weeks go by. But I would have thought that would have given them a disadvantage upwind, but it actually doesn't seem to slow them down at all.
Coming up.
Good, standing by.
Yes. Good there, good there.
Anytime. 3, 2, 1. Foot down. Turning. My wheel. Working a little high. Yeah. Got it.
American Magic about to go through gate, the top gate for the last time in this 8-leg race. This is the completion of leg number 7. Got to say, when I heard Dean Barker say ball down, I thought he said foot down, which is a little Kiwi, is it? Put your foot down.
It's lighter here. It's righty all the time.
And let's see what the advantage is. It's been as low as 5 seconds, but it's blown out somewhat to that. It was 5 seconds the last time they rounded this mark, and it's 16 seconds.
20 seconds.
This is the time where you need the other boat to make a mistake. If you're the boat behind right now, everybody's so good. These boats are so fast. They're so well sailed. Without a mistake, Rossa is in a bit of a tough spot. These guys must be tired crossing back and forth all the time.
One this way, please. Just for the finish.
I think the grinders are probably more tired than the guys just having a walk around the back of that boat.
I guess I'm talking like a helmsman, feeling sorry for myself.
Not as good, hey?
All I can say is at least they've managed to stay on the boat, unlike some helmsmen.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We'll bring that. We'll have a shot of that later.
numbers here.
Boat speed numbers there look pretty much identical.
Never slow a target.
Not a whole lot in it right now, but the VMG, which is always a difficult one to spy, I think the Americans seem to be able to go the same speed, but able to go slightly lower angles, which means they end up just doing less distance, and that's where I think they're making these gains downwind.
Look at the kink in the head stay here, right? We were talking about there. There's a kink right at the top of that jib, and that's because there's no running backstays on that boat. There's no backstays here holding the mast up, so you get that real kink. And I've been noticing that kink all along. It's really interesting that they're willing to sail like that with kind of lack of control over the head stay tension.
Copy. Maybe just going straight.
Right end will be better to finish at.
Roger.
And you see it.
Marginal. Peter, we get down.
Yep. Easy eagle.
American Magic on the final leg. That length, or should I say that lead, has extended out to 300 odd meters on Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. They can see the finish line in sight. And this is a nice comeback after their 12-second loss in race 5 earlier today to Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Considering what happened in that race, 12 seconds was, you know, you're going to lose 12 seconds, not bad. You've almost tipped your boat over. Different story this time, though, in race number 7. And Luna Rossa are going to be beaten. Yes, it's another good day for American Magic. The spoils are split. And it's one apiece on day 2 of the America's Cup World Series here on the Waitemata Harbour in Auckland, New Zealand. Dean Barker will be one very satisfied helmsman.
One good shower before you're done.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli crossing the finish line. And the gap, 30 seconds. They got it down as low as 5, but in the end, it's a 30-second win to the New York Yacht Club's American Magic in race 7 of the Prada America's Cup World Series. Confirmation of the result. There you see it. American Magic pick up win number 3 now. They came into the day with 2. Got beaten by Luna Rossa in the earlier race and have just rebounded with that 30-second win.
Well, this was the fun part, and again we see a little bit of timing difficulties by these boats just trying to get in. Luna Rossa comes in early, and they get penalized for it, but they don't have to burn the penalty off, and they're on starboard. There's a port starboard. Well, they were not even close to being done yet. Jimmy Spithill does a really nice job setting up Dean Barker. He tries to go around the front of them. Penalty to American Magic. But they come off the foils. They come off the foils. They're super vulnerable. They don't try to get out of the way enough. And penalty back to Prada. It's match racing. Well, off they go. American Magic gains a start, especially with that penalty to Prada, and off they go. Boy, oh boy, downwind, they still seem to have that theme of speed, and Prada was nipping away at them upwind, making it close. But never close enough for, I think, American Magic really to be fearful. Easy for us to say here in our booth. And off they go. It's a nice, comfortable 30-second win at the end. Stretched it out on that last run. Really well sailed. Really, really clean. Once that starting sequence got over with, really clean. Great job by American Magic, winning this race by 30 seconds.
Let's go on board now to American Magic. Dean Barker waiting for a quick chat. Great result for you, 30-second win over Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. But tell us, Dean, what happened at the start?
Well, it was pretty unconventional, I'd have to say. Like, we were just a little bit late on our timing, and you know, we ended up with like not quite crossing, so we jibed away, and that sort of set off kind of a fairly different pattern, but you know the guys did a great job of the boat handling, and you know we got a nice start. Obviously, relative to them, had a nice little lead, and yeah, from there we're able to you know, like try and keep a pretty tight race. But you know the course is very challenging. Yeah, you're just sort of never quite sure how much leverage to take, but yeah, they never went away and made it a very exciting race.
So Dean, for sure, a lot of you skippers have said you were expecting close, you know, match racing. We can use the word match racing, but did you ever think it was going to be this close? I mean, that was a full-on pre-start.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like the old school days. Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, it was obviously very you know, really quite a lot going on as per normal, you know, what we've been practicing. But you know, in saying that, it's you know, it's nice to sort of, you know, have a bit of variation. You know, this is sort of all about learning for the Prada Cup, and yeah, nice to sort of learn these lessons now.
Hey Dean, it's Nathan Atteridge here. Well done. It was impressive racing, and as you were just saying there, some awesome match racing. From the commentary booth, it looks like you guys have some wheels downwind, but maybe they had a click more on you upwind. Do you feel the same way, or do you think we're misreading it here in the commentary box?
Oh, you guys will probably see it better than we do. Yeah, there's definitely some yeah, definitely some good you know, good battles going on. You know, I think it's a real learning process for everyone right now, just to see where we stack up. You know, at times, you know, you sort of you think, you know, you're going well upwind, and then other times, you know, you sort of think maybe the other boat is. So yeah, we've just got to keep chipping away, just try and get faster, and you know, we'll see what we get to, you know, when we get into racing proper.
Thanks for your time, Dean. 3 out of 4 so far. We'll talk to you again.
Yeah, cheers, thank you.
So the final race of day number 2, race 8, it will be Ainsley against Burling yet again. INEOS Team UK and Emirates Team New Zealand on your right-hand side of the screen, getting ready for the pre-start. I'm sure that Peter Burling will have thought about what happened last time, Nathan Atteridge, and will just want to get this one right. They want to get all their ducks in a row. 3 minutes to go. That's the warning. The port boat will be the boat of INEOS Team UK. I'm sure there's some English fans in there that are supporting Britannia, and Kiwi fans as well supporting Emirates Team New Zealand.
Definitely critical here that these teams enter on time. You don't want to be giving penalties away in this kind of start. You can see here in the picture, the only boat we see right now is Emirates Team New Zealand. They are coming down on their foils. Britannia coming here on port tack. Looking like both boats foiling and on time.
It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. The porting crew boat will be INEOS Team UK that you can see to the left-hand side of your screen. The starboard entry will be Emirates Team New Zealand. Coming now, and they're on time. INEOS Team UK.
Not quite across him here, Ben.
A couple boats actually kind of on time here, but it looks like a real big left wind shift, which means it's hard for INEOS to actually get down into the box dangerously close to the starboard tacker Emirates Team New Zealand, but they get themselves across.
What's the exit, Ben?
2, 1, port down.
So Ken, what that's going to mean is this leeward end of the line, the left-hand mark as you look up screen is going to be the favoured end of the start line. That's going to have you closer to the start. And already we're seeing a very quick manoeuvre from INEOS Team UK. They are already trying to get over to this side, but risky position here because you're giving away starboard advantage. If you get out this way too far, they could be controlled by Emirates Team New Zealand.
I'm surprised at that maneuver. Maybe it's because the boundary is so tight in that upper right-hand corner, as we were just looking at the screen, that they decided they had to get themselves back in the box here a little bit.
My roll, your wheel, Ben, your pitch. 1 minute to start. Okay, mine. Powering up. Climb up.
fascinating that the boats are this interactive. They're absolutely going at each other, and you know, it's really, you know, when you guys were doing the catamarans, you kind of set up in the last 30 seconds or so, there would be kind of the push, hook, no hook.
Yeah, but
this is real maneuvering.
But the big difference is the starting box here is so much smaller than what we had in Bermuda. They don't have as much space to operate in. Bad jibe there from Emirates Team New Zealand. They're a sitting duck right now. If Ben can get the pace on it and attack him, could be a good lead here for INEOS Team UK off this start. Neither boat can cross the starting line on starboard tack right now. That's how big this left-hand shift is, and Emirates Team New Zealand up parked.
Trouble for Emirates Team New Zealand at the start of race number 8, and it's all for INEOS Team UK as the countdown goes. 4 seconds to go, and they are in the box seat. INEOS Team UK with their best start of the regatta so far, and they are away. Emirates Team New Zealand getting up on the falls, are they? Keep watching.
Coming up here. Yeah, master 10.
There's a feather in the cap of INEOS Team UK, outmaneuvering the Kiwis. We haven't said that very often. And you notice, for those of you back at home, why didn't they just head up and go over the starting line? Because there's such a big wind shift to the left, to this side of the course, that they couldn't even get across the line. So that's why both boats ended up starting on port tack.
Give me a bit more out of the text, boys. Yeah, we're just not trimmed up, mate. Yeah, no. Right.
Let's go down to Shirley. Shirley, what a pre-start.
-1 to 0 feet.
That's what we're talking about. When they first introduced these designs, no one thought they would even sail. What we've seen today is incredible, isn't it? Really full-on match racing maneuvers. And you know, Ben Ainsley, ex-world champion in match racing, he just read the course, he'd realised what he had to do, and boy, he did well to position right at the right place, and so good to see.
He just absolutely taught Peter Burling a lesson there in how to manage a pre-start. He knows he might not be the fastest boat today, so right now that's all he can do is win those starts, get away, and see how long he can keep Emirates Team New Zealand behind.
Well, he told us in the interview, didn't he? We think we're a little off the pace right now at this stage in our development, and really it's one of the only bullets we got in the gun right now. Let's go after him in the pre-start and see what we can do. And he mucked it up, and sure enough, it worked.
He fits the America's Cup mantra of being a fighter, doesn't he? Being Ainsley the fighter. Today he has shown there is fight in his dog, and Britannia are flying away at the moment. A 348-metre lead on Emirates Team New Zealand. Just a note too, this will be 6 legs, not 8, it's 6 legs. We're on the upwind leg at the moment, 1 of 6, and it's Emirates Team New Zealand are doing the chasing. We're going to get a good indication too. We always talk about how quick this boat is. We get a good indication today how quick Te Rehotai really is.
I think, Stephen, what we're also going to learn is how much of an advantage it is to be in front. You know, if Ben Ainsley's out in front, he's got fresh air, there's no pressure on him right now. They're just going to get round this track and go as quick as they can, and it's going to be a boat speed race, at least for the first lap. We'll be keeping everyone updated on the timings at the marks to see how much Team New Zealand can come into them. But man, I was still getting over that pre-start action. That was fantastic.
Shirley Robinson, Ben Ainsley will be relishing this right now. He's a fighter, isn't he?
Oh yeah, we've seen it so often. I mean, I went to the press conference last night, Stephen, and looked in his eyes, and I've seen that before. You know, when he's on the back foot, when he's frustrated, he often finds a real extra gear. He goes into kind of street fighting mode, and we've seen that in that race. What a phenomenal, great execution, read it really well. And let's see what happens now.
You know, you're almost tempted to sort of rework a phrase, you know, but 24 hours is a long time in America's Cup racing at the moment, isn't it? Considering what we saw yesterday with INEOS Team K and what we're witnessing right now.
Well, that's exactly correct. That's we've been hinting at it, but this is finally proof that a day is just a huge amount of time. In a development class like this, that so much can be done. There's so much data, there's so much information and great coaching And again, we've mentioned it before, but hats off to their shore team, who for sure pulled an all-nighter just to make this boat saleable and get it out on the race course today.
INEOS Team UK, they would be the first to hit the top gate at leg 1 of 6 of this 8th race of the America's Cup World Series. We're on day 2. Can INEOS Team UK bag their first win? That will be the question. But you've got to say, it looks like Emirates Team New Zealand are closing fast. But it's INEOS Team UK rounding the mark first and heading down wind on the second leg of 6 in this 8th race.
Okay, hurry up. Okay, hold that, John. Thoughts on the run?
And in comes Emirates Team New Zealand.
Steady pressure, not too windy.
Poor pre-start has cost them. And they are 12 seconds behind. But in these boats and the way they go, that's doable.
Yeah, that's actually quite a big comeback. We were concentrating on the Brits and not really paying much attention to Emirates Team New Zealand as they came roaring up from behind. So, listen, Ben called it early. He knows that they have a little speed deficit today.
Well, it was some 400 metres. It's now under 70 metres now. So Tiruhutai's quick.
It'll be super interesting, Nathan, to see if he does stick his elbows out or he just keeps trying to play wind shifts here. Really, if you think you're in a slower boat, if you think you can maneuver with them, you actually start tacking and jiving all over them. But this is getting chewed up really quickly.
You can hear on board already, possibly having to go behind me. Emirates Team New Zealand approaching on starboard tack, right of way. Let's listen on board, see what happens here.
Thank you, go.
Okay, coming up slightly here.
Copy. He's coming up hard.
For the rebuild.
Some pressure this way. Copy. I think we'll make that.
Coming away.
Yep. And we have a lead change.
Coming on. Just wait. Nice left.
Well done, bud. Okay,
we'll just run this out all the way.
Pressure looks good. I think we go to boundary here.
Yep.
So Shirley, from the water, more pressure to make that difference, or is one boat just going faster?
Well, we were right beside INEOS when they jived, and they hung around on 2 piles for a really long time. And to me, they lost massive distance right there then. We also heard Ben say, lads, let's just do the best we can. You know, the Kiwis are smoking down here, but I think, you know, the Brits have an issue in those manoeuvres. They've 2 boards forever.
Well, they're on starboard tack right now, so if they can keep it close and get, it looks like they had a little wind shift there, but that doesn't make it look quite as good as the other view did it.
Potentially later, sir. Yeah. Just
Emirates Team New Zealand looked like they put the hammer down on the second leg, the downward leg of 6. 2 of 6 after trailing INEOS Team UK around the top gate.
Some great chat coming off INEOS. They're talking about if they can lay the bottom mark without another manoeuvre, that's going to save them a lot of distance. So they're really trying to work the low mode, trimming the sails on, sailing a lower, faster mode, and they have a starboard tack advantage here. I think we're going to have another tight situation here at the bottom mark.
Starboard tack, INEOS Team UK.
Okay, not much lower than that for me.
Leaders just shrunk in front of your eyes.
Going behind, says Burling. There you go, another lead change.
Pressure building.
So if INEOS lay in here, they've taken the lead back and they're going to lead around the bottom mark. It's not over.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Pressure here.
500 metres from the bottom gate.
You heard Glenn on Emirates Team New Zealand say they're not there yet. They think that INEOS is going to struggle to get down to this mark.
Which flips the coin again in Team New Zealand. On starboard tack, INEOS Team UK going to jibe, but they'll have the inside of the right-hand mark coming down to the bottom mark here. This is going to be a hard manoeuvre.
Good luck calling this one, Stephen. Welcome to sailing.
Come down. You got him? Yeah, going behind him and going to the left mark. Copy.
Another lead change. They just couldn't do that maneuver. Jibe twice.
Emirates Team New Zealand. Rounding the bottom gate ahead of INEOS Team UK, but it's only by mere seconds. Just the 4. They are making a race at this race number 8 as they head up the upwind leg. leg 3 of 6.
When they weren't going to lay the mark, Nathan, they didn't have a choice there, right? The Kiwis jibed onto starboard, had a good jibe, and they couldn't have pulled off a jibe maneuver and tried to keep to the inside. They did what they could only do, and that was take their transom and round the other mark.
Definitely the safest option to do that. Keeps them in the race for much longer.
Fight another day, right? Live to fight another day.
Should get better puff soon. Copy. It'll be a marginal cross, probably behind. Depends on his tack.
Copy.
Starting to get puff here. Yeah. He still carries on. Only press there.
What's the boundary say there? I can't quite see it.
You've got 22 seconds.
Yeah,
we'll come quick with it down.
Yeah, copy.
15.
Okay, stand by.
Yep. He's gaining very nice here all the
1,
time.
more down.
Okay, he's tacking down, so it's going to be probably bow on bow. Probably 15 seconds to making a decision. So he's crossing behind us at the moment. You're right. Easily crossed. Yeah, easy crossed by 6 all the way this way.
So wasn't that fascinating? Where the Emirates Team New Zealand voices were the ones we heard, and they thought they had that INEOS had a piece of them on starboard tack, but it just looked like their tacks and jibes just aren't quite up to speed yet.
I guess Glenn Ashby, who's sitting to leeward, who was talking us through that whole setup, was saying, should we bow and bow to this? And I guess they're thinking, if that was us and we tack, that's where about we would be, but they probably weren't calculating that. Maybe INEOS Team UK aren't tacking at the same level. They completed the tack, they're a little bit low in the water, as Shirley said. Leeward board hanging in the water a little bit too long, and eventually Emirates Team New Zealand make an easy cross. Shirley, how's it looking on the water? Can you see differences in moding or tacking abilities between the two boats?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've already said it, Nathan. I mean, upwind and downwind, the Brits just seem really sluggish through those manoeuvres. It's also slightly different now. The sun's come out, a little bit less wind. It's really patchy on this left-hand side, and you know, I think that's adding to the inconsistency in those manoeuvres.
Copy.
Keep pushing it once here, guys. Right on the edge here with these, unfortunately.
Says we're right on the edge here with these, unfortunately, which I think he means they're close to splashing down. They all have smaller jibs on right now, and certainly, surely the breeze just feels like it's slowly settling down. They both look a little bit underwicked right now with their headsail choice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, speaking to some of the guys on board, that headsail choice is so difficult. The crossovers between them, there's 6 to choose from, is absolutely critical. It's like a knot and a half between each. And if you get caught, you know, you're in trouble.
Surely we can see your chase, but you might want to get out of the way there. They're going pretty quick.
I think that every moment of the day, Stephen.
They have 6 to choose from. I think they need 10 or 12 to choose from wearing my other hat.
Trying to get 31s.
Big crowds in at the Auckland Village, enjoying this racing. Emirates Team New Zealand seemingly in control of this one with a lead of 270 metres on INEOS Team UK, who have shown major gains today in both their races. This one's not done yet. We're on leg 3 of 6.
Straight line, they look okay though, Nathan. I mean, again, it looks like a pretty, for sure they had a great start, but just in pure boat speed in this race, INEOS looks like they made a step forward even from the last race.
The numbers we were just seeing there look almost identical, 32 knots for both boats going upwind. What we really need to dissect is angles. Are they doing the same angle upwind, or is Team New Zealand just sailing higher, doing less distance, or is the real game coming in these manoeuvres? Shirley's already picked it up from on the water, foils in the water for longer, too much time with 2 boards down for INEOS Team UK. If they can start to refine their manoeuvres and get that board up sooner, then they're going to be losing less distance around this track.
1 and in, right turn. Yeah, copy. Pressure looking on that low press.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Copy. He looks to be set for that left turn. We'll split right. Pressure on in 3.
This is being set up for a split pack at this top mark, Stephen?
It's interesting that just off that north head, it gets a bit light, Jello.
Yeah, copy that.
They trailed for the first time.
Okay.
They are now
here.
in control of this race.
Lay line now, you're
at this point.
Yep.
They'll take that right-hand marker as you see it.
Turning.
Around the head down to begin leg number 4 of 6. Just keep an eye on the clock on the bottom right of your screen to see what the distance they have, the edge they have on INEOS Team UK, Britannia.
It's course.
Britannia now entering the top gate.
Yeah, yours.
Coming up, lads. Yep. Bearing away in 3.
Quite light out of this, lads.
1.
Won the start. But you've got to win the race. 31 seconds the edge that Emirates Team New Zealand have on INEOS Team UK.
Big difference from the first race today, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, that's a nice angle there. No,
the demise of Ben Ainsley might be
my pitch
dramatically exaggerated. How's that?
Oh, completely. Yes, there was 1 minute 32 loss and all the talk about, you know, the Kent system and everything like that, but their short team has done a magnificent job, and they've just dug in. They have just dug in, and everything's working fine and shown what they can do and what can become of this team.
So, Nathan, I have a question for you. It's in between races. You got a 2-race day with all this data and all this computerization and hydraulic systems. How much change could these boats make in between races out on the water, or do you really need to go back into the compound and regroup and kind of settle in there?
I remember from our days when we're racing in Bermuda, we could make changes to software on water. It was always a risk if you got a bug when you do it, but if you weren't happy about the speed at which that, say, Kent is coming up, the windward foil, we're watching Team New Zealand drive here, if you're not happy with how fast that comes up when you push the button, they have the ability on the chase boat or back at the dock to just program a few different numbers and you can get it to come up faster if you want. So I wouldn't be surprised if between races they've gone and had a chat with the designers, a chat with the data review team and said, look, we want to improve this and this. They could make a few little tweaks on the boat. You do a few laps, happy with that, and then you get onto it. So it's not just sailing techniques that can change. It's how you basically program the whole boat.
Program the boat. Who would ever have thought you'd be hearing words like that? Programming the boat. But these are special boats. They are futuristic boats. You're seeing racing like has never been seen before. 75-foot foiling monohulls, and they make a magnificent sight, particularly when you look at the speeds they're doing.
We've had lots of great comments here in the commentating booth. It's late in the day. Commentator booth. Talk about hull shapes. But we're going to get into hull shapes, and we're going to get into foil shapes, and we're going to get into rudders and everything else. But one thing that you can say
I think it's okay.
These two boats are flat out weird looking, and it's somebody. The creativity that has gone into designing these boats, and they kept the rule quite open on purpose. The creativity that's gone into it is nothing shy of unbelievable in my eyes.
Pressure still looks okay on that left.
Almost a 500-meter lead to Emirates Team New Zealand on INEOS Team UK as they really do fly into the bottom gate and start the penultimate leg of 6. It makes a beautiful sight. Looking down at the spectator fleet, ringing this course C.
Okay, stand by, blades.
Okay, happy here, Ben. Happy.
As Emirates Team New Zealand drive and set up the mark round 8.
Turning.
Around they go. Peter Burling on helm. Blair Tuke, the flight controller.
Really smart tactical call right there coming into that gate, Nathan, that they actually overstood a little bit just to take the big disaster of touching down out of play. So if you go beyond it some, you always have the ability to heat the boat up, and by that I mean turn up towards the wind and keep more pressure in the sails and keep the boat out of the water. If you cut it too close, you can splash down, and there's nothing you can do about it. You got to round the mark.
1, go board down.
Board go down, your wheel, my pitch. My pitch on next turning.
Britannia or Rita, you can see the Rita highlighted, named after all of Ben Ainsley's Olympic boats, and it worked quite well, didn't it? Britannia with Rita in the middle, and they A tiny bit of a splash down there. Not the cleanest rounding of the mark, but they're up and going again.
I think we want to go far.
And that's still the fascinating part when you don't really have an understanding of hydrodynamics and fight to see these boats get up out of the water straight away and onto the foils.
Honestly, the difference in how they're sailing this boat today compared to the last 4 or 5 days, and that includes the practice sessions, the practice racing that we saw prior to this event even starting, it's just dramatic how much better they're sailing the boat. So it's really very impressive, and every day they'll learn more. Yes, the lead is getting away from them, there's no question, but like we've said many times here, there'll be plenty of positives to take out of this.
Yeah, Ken, what we're actually seeing here is the guys sailing a boat that's working underneath them. You know, they've said for almost a week now they've had fundamental problems with their boat. And we've all been there as sailors. When we sail a boat that's not working properly for you, it actually makes you look like a really bad sailor. And, you know, you could see Ben in the press conference yesterday, he just had that look of like, I know what you all think, but it's not as bad as it looks. And once the boat starts working again, we're going to be fine. These guys have been here for months, sailing and training. I've been watching all the teams. And INEOS has looked really good at times out on the race course. You know, they've been manoeuvring really well. What we never knew was how fast each of the teams were relative to each other, because they weren't allowed to line up against each other. So what we're seeing here now is, okay, they've got a bit to do in terms of speed. Probably a lot to do in terms of speed, but at least the boat's functioning again, and they'll just have to keep chipping away at it.
And we have to put this in context too, and this covers all teams. There was supposed to be 2 regattas before this, 2 World Series events. So that would have been time for a lot of development, a lot of understanding of the systems of the boats, what they can and can't do as they develop boat 2. So what we are seeing is a lot of development in front of our eyes.
It'll keep happening every minute of every day until you're either holding that trophy, sipping champagne or champagne out of it, or sent home. There's only two ways this ends.
And they're all going for that first option, aren't they? They all want to drink that champagne. But I'm sure that's the furthest thing from their minds at the moment. They're just focused on making these boats go fast, eliminating their errors in their maneuvers, and this is the second day of racing. Team New Zealand have 2 more left, and then after that they're on their own.
Yeah, you wonder what they're going to practice in, because it's very clear that hand-to-hand combat is far more aggressive than maybe even they thought. You know, these pre-starts are real, and you better be sharp going into it, because people are going to learn moves and learn how to maneuver in ways that maybe these guys never even considered. And what's Burling going to do to practice?
Well, he hasn't had a good showing in the starting box yet, has he? Whenever there's been a close combat, it hasn't really gone his way. He's got 2 more days to make up for that. And there's only so long you can be just doing pre-starts against your chase boat. Their boat 1, as far as I understand, is sort of mothballed. They can't bring that back out and do any 2-boat training. They don't have enough sailors in the team to do that. So they're just going to have to watch other teams and learn from their mistakes, and hope that their boat's a lot faster so they don't have to engage at all in the pre-start.
I've got it, yeah.
Stephen, you're looking at me saying, was that a good tack or not? You know, we saw the boat touch the water, it got a little bit of leeward heel. Everyone who watched that probably is going, yeah, not perfect, but they're still foiling, they're still going fast. They'll analyse that, but it's not the end of the world.
That would fall in the good enough category, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but good enough, is it? You don't want good enough, right?
You're becoming quite a critic here. In your young life as a sailing commentator, Stephen, you're becoming quite a critic.
Not going to be called that. Just sitting here in my lane doing my job as Emirates Team New Zealand for the last time, coming into the top gate, and then they'll head downward for the final run in race number 8 of the Prada America's Cup World Series. Around they go and head home. It's a Friday afternoon in Auckland, New Zealand. It's a lovely day. It's the 18th of December as we head towards Christmas. And boy, watching these last two, and especially today, Ken, if you're a sailing fan, you feel like you've opened plenty of presents today because we have been treated today.
The text messages coming in are fast and furious, like, hey, real racing, you know. But I think a few people got a little bummed out, or a little too early, I might add, because this is just early days in the type of racing we're going to see. But we're bummed out by some of the lopsided races we saw yesterday. But listen, man, this is just starting, and I just like the pre-starts. I like the aggressiveness and how these guys are absolutely willing to throw these boats around as if they were sailing in their Etchels or sailing in their, you know, in their keel boat. It's fantastic.
Well, Nathan and I will take note of that you love aggressiveness, and if you put your elbows out, we'll stay well clear, Ken.
It's a shame he's sitting in the middle, isn't it? Because he can reach both of us.
That's great. You guys better be careful. Could get dangerous in here.
INEOS Team UK for the last time edging towards that top gate. And they knew they were off the pace. Subin Ainsley, their helmet said they knew they were off pace, but their gain today has been nothing short of miraculous considering what happened in the last 24 hours. 1 minute and 31 seconds behind Emirates Team New Zealand. The win in the earlier race was 1 minute and 32 seconds.
These grinders, what a brutal day, right? You think they're swapping out? I didn't even look at the groups on board. How many people are they swapping out from race to race? Because they got to be whipping these guys, right?
Yeah, I think generally there's 2 crew rotations between the races. It's pretty much max out heart rate as much as you can do in the entire race, and so generally they're switching 2 of the grinders between the races, just like having reserves in a rugby game. You've got to keep the guys fresh and keeping the power coming into the boat. Shirley, I want to come down to you for a moment. We're seeing New Zealand really getting away at this point. Do you think it's got anything to do with the wind strength slowly dropping? And can you see any differences that's happened throughout the day?
Nathan, no. I mean, I just think whatever's thrown at them, they can adapt and go well. We spent quite a long time going upwind directly behind them. I mean, an amazing spot. And to me, they can get more mass bend. The main setup's more versatile. They can ride out those puffs, and we saw it yesterday, and we're seeing it today. They are fast.
It's holding like this.
They are fast.
Yeah, I think we're fine going to boundary.
Thanks, Shirley. Yeah, Ken, we'll definitely need to dive into those details, how they're controlling the sails, how they're adjusting the camber, how they're bending the mast. There's lots of gadgets and tools on these boats to really manipulate the sails to change the power. Today's probably not the day for us to get into that, but at some point we will need to explain a number of these things, and we've got to learn ourselves. We don't really know all the details of how these boats work.
All right, to transfer the arrow, or
Emirates Team New Zealand get double delight today. They are 2 from 2 against INEOS UK and make it 3 wins out of 4 in this America's Cup World Series, and they do it in style. The difference now is, how big is that gap? It was 1 minute and 32 seconds in the last race. What will it be this time? Because they had the hammer down on that last leg.
They continue to be fast. Everybody knew they were going to be fast coming into the event, and the very limited sailing that the boats did against each other, the word on the street was the Kiwis have pace, and they're doing nothing really to show otherwise.
INEOS Team UK will repeat it again. Subin Ainsley said they know they're a bit behind on pace, but what we have seen today has been almost a resurrection of morale for this team after yesterday. All the talk at the press conference last night about foil can system seems to have just gone away. And why shouldn't it? They've got the job done. They are up, they are sailing, they are racing. That's what they are here to do.
Yeah, Stephen, you're right. It's a huge step in the right direction for these guys. They're going to feel happy that the boat's functioning and that they're sailing it well, but man, they're going to go home tonight and say, right, okay, tick that box. How do we go faster? What do we need to do over the next few weeks to make sure we can race these boats and not just go around the track with them?
those questions of how can we go faster must be every day for years. How can we go faster? How can we go faster? Well, most important thing today for INEOS Team UK, they are racing. And they will come in behind Emirates Team New Zealand. And the final distance is 1 minute and 42 seconds. So a little bit behind on the first race, but they're home and they're home clean.
Yep, well done
Nice work,
by
guys.
the Brits.
No, we didn't get the results, but sailed pretty clean race today.
You heard Ben Ainsley right there. Nice job, guys. We didn't get the result, but we had a couple clean races. That's baby steps, right? Baby steps. And you got to guarantee they have a ton of stuff back in their closet ready to break out and get that boat going faster.
Confirmation of the final race on day 2. It's race number 8. Emirates Team New Zealand make it 2 from 2 over INEOS Team UK. The margin this time, a 1 minute and 42 second gap.
So the start did not disappoint yet again, Nathan, and we had a little bit of action. We actually had 2 boats that came in somewhat on time for the first time. We had all kinds of twisting and turning, and the Kiwis off the foils, and off goes the Brits. Ahead at gate number 1 with a nice little lead, but you could kind of hear it in Ben Ainsley's voice. He wasn't expecting this lead to stay, was he?
No, definitely not. Emirates Team New Zealand not very far behind there at the top mark. And leg 2 was the interesting one. Emirates Team New Zealand take the lead, being on starboard tack. INEOS Team UK take the transom, go across to that far boundary, and later on down the run, the same situation occurs. Port starboard, coming to the bottom gate. They split gates. Emirates Team New Zealand had starboard tack at the bottom gate, took the right of way, which forced INEOS Team UK out to the right-hand side of the course. And from about this point onwards, it was just managing damage, and Emirates Team New Zealand just continued to sail away, showing really good boat speed.
Yeah, a bit of a parade from here on in. Just slow, easy extension, maybe not so slow and not so easy, but certainly an extension for these guys who pop over the finish line, win themselves another race, and now, more importantly to them right now, Stephen, they're back to tied for the overall lead in the regatta.
3 out of 4, that's Te Reo Tai, American Magic Patrick, 3 out of 4. Let's go on board Te Reo Tai. Good day at the office, Peter.
Yeah, I've got you, mate.
Good day at the office.
Yeah, ACTV.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite go that far. You know, we obviously learned a lot in those couple of races, and I definitely didn't sail as clean as we did in that first one yesterday, but it's just good learning for us. Good to be out here, kind of running through all the systems and trying to get everything working 100%, and I think we showed again that the boat's definitely plenty fast enough in that last one, so we're happy enough.
Hey, Peter, in that pre-start, you knew I was going to ask this. That splash down and kind of getting off the foils. Again, was that a mechanical, or was that some sort of a mental or physical on board the boat? How did that all happen?
Yeah, it was just actually poor execution by me. So something that thought we'd be able to get around there, and then probably didn't quite give the boys enough time. But no, it's something that. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Obviously, the start box is incredibly small on that side, so you're doing some probably less than conventional approaches, but it's pretty good fun all the same.
Hey, Peter, it's Nathan Outridge here once again. Congratulations for the race win. You got 2 days left training with all these other teams, or racing with these other teams. What are your main takeaways from the first 2 days, and what do you really want to work on over the next 2 days?
I think it's just tidying up all the little things and, bits and pieces we're making mistakes on. After this event, we can, carry on working on speed, but, it's definitely, making sure that, we're where we want to be in terms of a tactical sense, and, how we're making the decisions around the racetrack. So, we're pretty happy with most of it, but it's just, tidying up those little details.
Thanks, Pete. Give us a smile, by the way.
Thanks, mate.
There you go. Thanks, Pete. So let's go on board Britannia now. Helmsman Sir Ben Ainsley we get to chat to again, and Huge gains by this team today, Ben.
Yeah, it was a much better day for us. You know, the boat was working much better, and guys did a pretty good job sailing the boat clean. Obviously, was struggling a little bit still for pace. Well, quite a lot for pace. More so in the lighter airs. So, you know, we've got a lot of thinking to do about how we can get more speed out of this boat. But I was really pleased with the step forwards. You know, Team New Zealand certainly at a class act, or appear to be the class act at the moment, performance-wise. So for us to have that opportunity to try and make those gains, that's really important.
Hey Ben, Nathan Atteridge here. We gave you a little bit of stick in the commentary booth in the first pre-start when you were quite aggressive and it maybe potentially backfired on you. That start just there was pure class. You just absolutely schooled Peter Burling. You know, what was the key moment in the pre-start where you nailed him? Like, how did you pull that off? It was incredible to watch, but tell us, how did you do it?
Well, it's a really tight start box with this course C in this wind direction. And so we actually had a little bit of a plan in terms of being the port entry boat. And Pete came round, tacked in underneath us. And then it was really actually about executing that jibe, doing a tight jibe round up. And our guys did a great job. We pulled it off, and the Kiwis fell off the foil, which is pretty much the key to it. But it's really intense. It's good fun actually. Those starts in these boats. It's been pretty full on.
Great to watch. Super day for INEOS Team UK, Ben. We'll see you tomorrow. You're up against Luna Rossa first up.
Thanks, guys.
Going around the track today, Nathan, here's the fun part. We look at the Kiwis pretty quick, upwind, pretty quick downwind, and actually sailed a little bit less distance. Again, those are and did less maneuvers. So if you need a recipe for a race win, that is pretty much it, and it turns into a minute 42.
Yeah, exactly. I think what we saw probably on the first beat was with that higher mode that they can sail at wind, they can avoid that extra attack, which gives them less distance, which gives them higher boat speeds. And yeah, man, there's every column there is a gain to Emirates Team New Zealand.
Over 40 knots on both boats, though, in about 9 knots of wind speed.
That's impressive.
Yes, and the big dips are the ones you want to get away from, and I think this really shows the maneuvers. These maneuvers here are the bad maneuvers. More of them, let's put it that way, than Emirates Team New Zealand. There it is again. These big dips in boat speed are the ones you're trying to avoid. It's really, you know, every single time. Every time there's attack and every time there's a jibe, you can see that the Brits are still coming out of those maneuvers slower than Emirates Team New Zealand. So that's something that they're going to look back on the data and they're going to figure out how they can get through these maneuvers, because the boats are the same weight. They got to figure it out.
Yeah, I think we want to make sure they don't jam. Copy, tactically. We're not there yet. Not in. The angle for build peak.
Okay, tactic down for take. Yeah, we're 27.
Two days of racing have been completed in the Prada America's Cup World Series. Auckland City, the waterfront, the ports with those big gantries, and just the spectator fleet cruising home after being satisfied on a magnificent day of racing. You know, in 170 years, no British team has ever won the America's Cup. But Sir Ben Ainslie and INEOS Team UK are determined to make history.
America's Cup, for me, has always been an ambition to win the Cup for Britain, where it all started. You know, we've never won the America's Cup, and that's the motivation to push as hard as we are to get that Cup back to Britain for the first time. Sometimes you have to pinch yourself on these boats, because you look around, suddenly you realise just how fast you're going when you compare yourself to the chase boats or other boats that are out in the harbour. Most of the time you're so focused on trying to keep the boat going near its optimum, trying to keep it upright on the foil. You don't really have time to think about quite how fast you're going, but they they consume a huge amount of energy and focus to sail well, but that's also really rewarding if you can get the boat up and near its optimum. It's just fantastic out in the water to get these boats out there on the Gulf, on Auckland Harbour. I mean, it's a pretty narrow, tight stretch of water, and it's full on. You know, if you have a crash in one of these boats, if you fall off the foil or you nosedive, you lose the rudder, at that point you just really become a passenger, and that's a little bit scary, you know, truth be told, because you don't really have any control, and if you stuff the nose in at 40 knots or whatever, that's, you know about it.
2, 1, down.
I think to win the Cup, you need 3 key elements. You need to have, obviously, a great sailing team and a great design team, and then you need the funding and management to put all that together. For whatever reason, in the UK, we've probably had campaigns where we've had kind of one, but not all 3 of those elements together. And that's the trick, and the continuity. You look at a team like Team New Zealand, they've been in the America's Cup game now for 30 years. And okay, the people have changed over those years, but that learning, that collective, and the history that Team New Zealand now has is massive. And so that's really what we need to try and build in the UK. Well, we're obviously a very proud maritime heritage, and we've won just about everything else in sport, but the America's Cup is the one thing that we've never won. So that's something that kind of hurts, really. And it's 170 odd years of hurt. So, like I said, that's our motivation to try and put that right. I'm committed to winning the America's Cup for Britain and to get 4 boats out on that patch of water. All of the spectators, I think it's just going to be the most amazing competition. And going up against Team New Zealand on home waters, it's a bit like taking on the All Blacks at Eden Park. It really doesn't get any tougher than that in our sport. And that's the challenge that we're after. You know, as sportsmen, you want to be tested against the best and put yourself in that arena, and we're certainly doing that down here in Auckland.
8 races down and 2 days, 4 to come before we hit the Christmas race on Sunday. And that's a beautiful shot of Mawika North Head. Let's just remind you what happened today. So the win to Italy, 12 seconds over American Magic. Then Team New Zealand with their first of 2 wins over INEOS Team UK. Then the USA came back. Yes, American Magic doing the job on the Italians by 30 seconds. And you've just seen New Zealand beat Team INEOS UK by 1 minute and 42 seconds. Let's take a quick look at the standings as well. It's really got busy now. Look at that. Both American Magic and Emirates Team New Zealand with 3 from 4. Rossa, Prada, Pirelli getting some traction today. They are at a 50% record. And INEOS Team UK, you know what? Today, forget about those numbers. They're 0 from 4. They've made huge games. They are smiling going back into dock tonight. So tomorrow, the last 4 races before we figure out the seedings for the Christmas Cup on Sunday. It will be Rossa against Britannia, Te Rehotai against Patriot, and that'll be INEOS UK, American Magic, and then Rossa against Emirates Team New Zealand to wrap up the 12 races in 72 hours. Let's go on the water. Shirley Robertson, first of all, what a day of racing.
We've learned a lot today, Stephen, haven't we? I mean, the defenders, they are rocket ship fast, but they're fallible. They are making mistakes. And there's going to be a big debrief, I suspect, this evening. And the challengers, I mean, what an improvement from yesterday. In one day, it's incredible. I mean, already it's tight racing. Already it's compelling. It's just going to get better and better.
Thanks, Shirley. Great job on the water today. We've got the best eyes on the water with double Olympic gold medalist Shirley Robinson, Nathan Outeridge. Wow, that's all I can say about day 2.
Yeah, today was a great day of racing. The weather was beautiful. The boats were up and foiling, and we saw some incredibly close racing. We saw American Magic and Rossa have 2 tight battles in both of their races, both taking 1 apiece. And we saw some pre-start action between INEOS UK and Emirates Team New Zealand. Really aggressive starting from Sir Ben Ainsley, and his boat's working just fine now.
Kenny?
I just love the pre-start stuff. You know, there's just the hand-to-hand combat. We had hoped that we were going to see some match racing, clearly Dean Barker and Terry Hutchinson, they are flat out match racing. They're tack for tack for tack with everybody, but the pre-starts are fantastic. These closing speeds and dial-ups and luffs and craziness. And honestly, as fans of sailing, that's what we want to see.
So that is it. Day 2 comes to a close of the Prada America's Cup World Series on this majestic Waitemata Harbour in Auckland, New Zealand. We are back tomorrow at 3 o'clock local time, and we'll begin with Rossa Prada Pirelli against Britannia. It doesn't get any better. This is the Prada America's Cup World Series.
Today's America's Cup Racing is brought to you by Mum Champagne.